believe I am recording now.
This is a public service.
Wait, hold on.
Are you gonna put it
I
on
might
some
not
kind
be.
of cloud or something?
Yeah, I'll have my IT people get that to you. And I believe we are recording now, and it's transcribing on the side. I don't know how to stop that, but I believe we are recording.
Thank you. So you want to kind of like start it out or what? Like, you want me to just get right into it or what?
Let me, for the recording, let me put some stuff just on there. It is just after 9 o'clock on Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. That is Mountain Time. We are here regarding Magistrate Court Cause number M191MR 2023 00044, M191 MR 2023 44. State of New Mexico versus Lane Jeffrey Myers. We're here to do a pretrial interview of Officer Angel Moreno. Right now, the only people on this recording are myself, Kent Wahlquist with the DA's office, Officer Moreno here on video. And we've never met before, but I'm assuming you're Lane Myers.
Yes, sir.
Those are the only three on here.
Nobody on my end either.
Okay. There was concern about the other witness, Douglas Downey, being on the video. He is not on right now. I texted him that I would let him know when to get on the video, and I do not see him on right now. Mr. Myers, you can take it away and ask your questions of Officer Moreno.
Thank you, sir. How you doing, Mr. Moreno?
I'm doing good. And yourself, Mr. Myers?
I'm good. Well, thanks for coming to do this. I'm going to start with a couple of questions. What's your name and badge number?
First name is going to be Angel, last name Moreno. Badge number that's assigned to me is going to be 434.
Okay. Have you ever met me, Mr. For the purpose of this, Mr. Wahlquist, also, I'm going to call myself, I'm going to quote unquote speak in the third person sort of. I'm just going to call myself Mr. Myers so we don't get confused with I or we or any of that. Does that work for you?
Understood. That's a good plan. It looks better on the transcript that way.
That way, I could be anybody. All right. So have you ever met Mr. Myers before July 1st?
Not before July 1st, no.
Okay. So that was your first time?
Yes.
Have you ever been to Hopewell Lake Campground?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever arrested anybody there?
Yes, I have.
And what were those charges for?
So there's going to be a criminal trespassing charge, resisting and evading, and I believe a disorderly disturbance.
You've arrested people for that before there, just to be criminal trespassing?
Not before there. I thought we were speaking on July 1st.
No, I asked you, have you ever arrested anybody other than Mr. Myers at Hopewell Lake Campground?
No.
Okay, so those charges you referred to were for Mr. Myers?
Yes.
So, but you have responded to a call at Hopewell Lake Campground before, right?
Yes, I have.
And did you arrest anybody?
No, I don't remember.
What were you called there for?
There's been some motor vehicle accidents, disorderly disturbance of a noise complaint. Other than that, I don't recall anything else.
Was Doug Downey the host at that time?
I'm unaware. No.
So you went there for some calls but never arrested anybody. Is there a record of those calls?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. Are you aware that it's federal land?
I'm not aware of it.
You're not aware that Hopewell Lake Campground is owned by the United States Forest Service?
Only thing I'm aware of is that there's a proprietary jurisdiction that allows me to go on Hopewell Lake and enact state laws as well and enforce rules and regulations or anything criminal. Not rules and regulations.
What about federal laws?
But just state.
Just state laws, not federal?
I'm unaware. Just all I'm aware of is just state laws.
You're not aware if you enforce federal laws?
No.
Did you swear an oath to uphold federal laws?
I swore oath to uphold the duties and responsibilities as well as state laws
of
the state of New Mexico and the United States.
You swore an oath to uphold the laws of the federal government?
Not the federal government. No, I did not say that.
You said the United States.
Yes, the United States.
What are you
But not-
referring to when you refer to the United States? What United States laws are you referring to that you swore an oath to uphold?
Your civil rights.
Those are not a law.
Oh, other than that, then no, I'm unaware of any federal laws that I uphold.
So you're unaware of any federal laws you uphold, and you're unaware that Hopewell Lake is federal property.
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up some exhibits here real fast. Let's see. Go to screen share. Okay. So we are going to, let's see. I'm gonna pull up the stuff this complaint you filed here. Did you fill this out, Mr. Moreno?
Yes.
You did, right? So
Yes.
this was provided to me by the prosecution. Okay. This is the criminal complaint you turned in when you arrested me, and you turned it in when you arrested Mr. Myers, and you turned it into the. Can you read this right here? I don't know on your screen. What does it say right here?
I
You can see the
swore.
mouse moving.
Yeah, I swear and affirm under penalty of perjury that the facts set forth are true to the best of my information and belief. I understand that it is a criminal offense to subject to the penalty imprisonment to make false statement in a criminal complaint.
Is that your signature right under there?
Yes.
So you signed this document, right?
Yes.
Did you search Mr. Myers before you transported him from Hopewell Lake Campground?
No. Not that I'm aware
Did
of.
you fill this document out and sign it that says you did?
Correct.
And why did you do that? Why did you fill that out that you did search him if you didn't?
Because you just had Mr. Myers had shorts on that day. Other than that, I didn't inspect anything obstructing or outside of or coming out of his pockets.
So, again, I'm going to ask you, Mr. Moreno, did you search Mr. Myers prior to leaving the campground?
I'm unaware. I don't recall.
You don't recall the answer you just gave, or you don't recall if you searched him or not? Because if
don't
you
recall
don't recall, we can pull the video up.
Okay.
Do you need me to play the video?
I do not need you to play the video. No, sir.
Okay, so did you search Mr. Myers prior to leaving the campground or not?
I don't remember. No.
So
To the
that's
best of
the
my
third
knowledge,
different
no.
answer you've given now, sir. I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying? You are aware of your responsibilities in this. You can't plead the fifth.
No one's
This is
pleading
not
the
court.
fifth.
So you need to answer to the best of your abilities.
Best of my abilities, did a visual search. Other than that, not a physical search or pat.
Okay, so is it the policy of the New Mexico State Police to search detainees prior to transport?
Yes.
Okay, so did you follow New Mexico State Police policy?
I followed all my policy and regulations on completing the arrest, booking, situation that transpired during that day.
Okay, can we focus on one thing at a time though, sir? I don't want to get anybody, so initially I asked you if you searched Mr. Myers. You said no. I asked you again to clarify, and now you don't remember. So I'm just for the record. Did you search Mr. Myers prior to leaving Hopewell Lake Campground?
Not a physical search, no.
Is that required by New Mexico State Police policy?
Yes.
Did you fill this document out and sign it that indicates you searched Mr. Myers prior to transport?
From the document, what I'm reading, yes.
You did.
Yes.
Was that a mistake?
No, I wouldn't say it was a mistake. Due to the circumstance, and due to what transpired only focus at that time was putting Mr. Myers in the back of my patrol vehicle for further escalation.
Okay, is that consistent with New Mexico State Police policy? Once you have somebody in handcuffs, couldn't that have endangered the paramedics or Officer Garcia when Mr. Myers arrived at the post?
So
what is
due
the
to the
policy?
totality of circumstance, I felt that it was best to put Mr. Myers in the rear passenger of my patrol vehicle due to the irateness of the male subject at that time and due to the resisting and arrest that Mr. Myers enacted that day. Again, the totality of the circumstance, it was my best judgment to put Mr. Myers in the rear patrol seat of my vehicle for further escalations and get him transported out. Other than that, I didn't do a physical search. I did a visual search. Didn't see anything inside Mr. Myers' pocket. He was wearing shorts. Other than that, anything that was possibly a physical object or a heavy object would have fell out of his pockets during what transpired.
So wouldn't you have checked the box marked no?
No.
If everything you just said was okay and everything you just said was an exception to the policy and you feel those were extenuating circumstances, wouldn't you just check no and then explain those circumstances later?
No.
So you would intentionally check yes even if you didn't search them?
Not intentionally, no, but at this time it was just my only focus was just getting Mr. Myers into the Rio Arriba County Detention Center.
Did you fill this report out at the campground as you were taking Mr. Myers into custody?
No.
You filled this out after?
After, yes.
So when you were filling this out, you weren't attempting to place Mr. Myers in the rear of your police car or restrain him or any of that?
Unsure of what you're asking me. Can you rephrase that?
When you were filling this report out, you indicated that it was after you placed Mr. Myers in jail.
Correct. No, not when I placed you in jail. No, or Mr. Myers.
So you did fill, were you engaged physically with Mr. Myers while filling this out?
That'd be impossible, sir.
I'm just going by I'm just trying to follow up and develop what you said a little better, because you're indicating that the reason you intentionally put yes, even though you did not, is because you were caught up in the moment of detaining Mr. Myers and placing him in the back of your car.
No, that is not what I am trying to say.
Okay, let's move to something else for now. We can come back to this. Okay, so this is the complaint you filled out though, right? And you signed this?
That is going to be the initial.
That's your signature right there, right?
From what I can see, yeah.
Okay. We'll move to a different something else right now. So do you think do you think you followed the policy there correctly?
What policy? Is it displayed on your
searching of do you believe you correctly followed the New Mexico State policy of searching someone, a detainee, prior to transport? And do you feel you correctly filled the form out?
Correct. Yes, I do.
You do. Okay. How long have you been a police officer?
For approximately 1 year and 3 months.
1 year and 3 months. Have you ever arrested somebody other than Mr. Myers?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever arrested someone in public without a warrant in the state of New Mexico?
Yes, I have.
Was that for a felony or a misdemeanor?
Both.
So you have arrested people in New Mexico without a warrant for a misdemeanor in public?
Yes.
Have you ever used force during an arrest?
Yes, I have.
For a misdemeanor in public without a warrant?
Public, as you're referring to, out in the open, park, gas station.
I'm referring to the public as it's referred to in the New Mexico laws. that you swore an oath to uphold and you were trained on at the academy.
Would you give me the definition of what it states then? So I can get a better understanding. Public, I mean, I'm referring, if you're referring to public out in the open, sidewalk, park, gas station.
I'm referring to the legal definition of public as it's defined under New Mexico statute.
I have not that I can recall, no.
So other than Mr. Myers, you have not used force during a warrantless arrest for a misdemeanor in the state of New Mexico in public?
In public, no.
Okay. Did you arrest Mr. Myers on July 1st?
Yes, I did.
Did you arrest Mr. Myers for a misdemeanor crime without a warrant in public?
Yes.
So you're aware that what public is now?
Yes, yes, I do.
Is there anything you wish you would have handled differently that day?
No, I do not.
There's nothing you wish you handled differently on July 1st?
No, sir.
Have you ever arrested somebody for trespassing, criminal trespassing, 30-14-1C?
Yes, I have.
What are the elements of 30-14-1C?
Unwanted at a resident or place, or their permission to be on that area or in that area, or residence for land is revoked, which means
okay. I'm gonna
away.
Can you narrow it down to the elements of 30-14-1C, which Mr. Myers is charged with specifically?
Can you go ahead and provide the exhibit so I can take a look at it?
I'm asking you.
What if
I'm asking you
I got
to tell me the elements of 30-14-1C, which you arrested Mr. Myers for that day.
That's going to be when their permission has been denied or taken back or withdrawn, and they've been asked to leave the property.
Which property?
Any property that is owned by someone. Or
is that what it says on 30-14-1C?
I don't know the complete verbatim of the state statute. I am just giving a brief synopsis of what it is.
Can you give me the verb? I'm not asking for a synopsis because at this time you did detain and arrest Mr. Myers and file a criminal complaint under penalty of perjury. You filed a 30-14-1C. Okay, so I need you to tell me what the elements of that are, because you're going to tell me those were present when you detained Mr. Myers, right? So we'll get to that. First, we'll get to 30-14-1C. You signed this document, so you should know what you charged somebody with.
I did. I said criminal trespass.
But I'm asking you to give the elements of subset 30-14-1 subsection C, which is specifically what's alleged in the criminal complaint.
Yes, it's going to be there on the criminal complaint.
I know it's on there. I'm asking you to say it, the person who's in charge of enforcing it.
I don't know the complete verbatim of the criminal trespassing. I don't study and sit down and read a verbatim on the state statutes.
Do you enforce state statutes?
Yes, I do.
Is it your sworn duty to know what you're charging someone with before you charge them?
I do know what I'm charging with, but I don't know the verbatim of the state statute.
So you know there's a statute, but you just don't know what it says.
I know what it says, but I don't know the complete verbatim of what it says.
So prior to detaining Mr. Myers on July 1st, did you look the statute up and verify what 30-14-1C is?
Yes, I do. Not prior, but I have arrested people for criminal trespass.
No, I'm asking if on July 1st, prior to detaining Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing, because you were unsure of the exact elements needed to prosecute, did you verify that prior to your interaction with Mr. Myers?
I was not sure of. Can you repeat that question?
Prior to detaining Mr. Myers on July 1st for 30-14-1C, did you verify? Did you look it up? Did you check with someone? Did you inquire as to the elements of the charge you were about to detain Mr. Myers for? Did you inquire as to the legal standard needed to be met in order to detain and arrest somebody for that?
So I understood of what was told to me, that Mr. Myers' permissions to be on the land was withdrawn. He was asked to leave at that moment.
Mr. Moreno, excuse me, sir. I really need you to just answer the questions that are asked. If you're not sure, you don't have a direct answer, that's fine, but please don't give answers to questions that weren't asked.
I am giving you a question. I don't understand what type of response you are looking for. I don't know if you're looking for just a yes or no, or if you're looking for a statement.
That's the beauty of these depositions. You're free to answer in any way you want.
Oh,
so
I am.
So I'm asking you, let's try to really stay focused here so we can move this along. Can you just try to just give answers focused on the question? Okay, so on July 1st, prior to detaining Mr. Myers, prior to pulling up at the campsite and exiting your vehicle, did you verify, did you look it up, did you call somebody, did you go on your computer, on your phone, and look up the elements of 30-14-1C prior to that?
I didn't look up the elements. I did not call anyone. I was just going to a call and seeing what the call was about.
So you did not verify the legal standard of 30-14-1C prior to detaining Mr. Myers for that crime?
I did not call someone. I did not look anything up.
Okay, I'm going to read you what elements of 30-14-1C are, okay?
Okay.
This is what you charge Mr. Myers with. The above named defendant did knowingly enter or remain at Hopewell campsite, land owned, operated, or controlled by the state of New Mexico, and permission had been denied to the defendant or withdrawn by the custodians of the land. Okay. So you gave a lot of different answers about trespassing, and there are multiple elements of trespassing, and you did refer to different ones. There was some overlap there. But 30-14-1C specifically states that the person is on land owned, operated, and controlled by the state of New Mexico.
Correct.
Is Hopewell Lake Campground owned, operated, and controlled by the state of New Mexico?
We do enforce laws on there, yes.
Which laws?
Any laws that apply to the state, or anything that the custodian wants to happen, or that happens on Hopewell Lake.
Who's the custodian at Hopewell Lake?
It's going to be Mr. Downey.
No, he's the host.
Yeah.
The custodian of the lands is who owns the lands and manages the lands. That's the United States Forest Service.
Okay, thank you for that.
Did you we'll get to that in a second. So prior to arresting Mr. Myers, did you verify that Hopewell Lake was owned by the state of New Mexico?
I did not.
Did you verify that Mr. Myers' permission had been denied by the custodian of the land?
Yes.
You did?
Through Mr. Downey, yes. Who's going to be the camp host at that time? That is who was a supervisor.
Don't just no run on. Just answer trust me, I'm going to ask you every question under the sun. So you don't need to give answers to questions that haven't been asked prematurely. So just let the questions come to you. So you didn't verify anything, and you did, and it's your belief that the state of New Mexico owns that.
Technically, yes.
Yes, they own that?
I would say yes, yes. Or I'm unsure, actually. Would say I am unsure.
Which answer would you like to give for the record?
Unsure.
Unsure? Okay. So have you ever arrested somebody for 30-14-1C?
Yes, I have.
Where were they located when you did that?
Multiple places.
Okay, where? Give me an example of an arrest because I have every arrest you've ever made here. So I'd like to go over the ones that you've made on for criminal trespassing, 30-14-1C. Okay. So narrow it down to the ones you arrested people on state land.
State land.
Yeah. Land owned by the state of New Mexico.
I'm unsure. I don't remember every arrest I've ever made.
But
If
can
you
you
would like,
recall
you can give me a brief example of one of my arrests on criminal trespass.
I mean, you know what I mean? I can't do your job for you, sir. No offense, but you got to answer the questions with what you have, with the information you have. I can't help you answer my questions.
So I don't remember every arrest, so I can't give you an
Okay, that's fine. You don't need to remember I was just curious if off the top of your head you were able to recall any times that you arrested somebody on land owned, operated, or controlled by the state of New Mexico with them having previously had their permission denied.
I'm unaware of any arrests, but I have, yes.
Does Doug Downey work for the state of New Mexico?
From what he works for the state parks. So
does he?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if he works for the state of New Mexico.
Does he work for the state parks?
From what was given to me, I would say yes, he was the camp host.
What was given to you or through your investigation?
What was given to me through my investigation.
And when was this investigation that took place?
July 1st.
Prior to arresting Mr. Myers?
Prior.
So prior to arresting Mr. Myers, you verified who Doug Downey worked for?
Yes.
With who?
State parks.
You called the state parks?
I did not call the state parks, no.
So you just testified that you verified. You know what? We'll get to that in a minute. Let's move through this in order. We're going to go through this kind of as the arrest happened. We'll get to this. I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes yet. We got a lot to cover. So you can't remember if you've ever arrested somebody for 30-14-1C, which is trespassing on land owned by the state of New Mexico, having had their permission revoked by the state of New Mexico. Is that correct?
No, that's not. I don't remember every single arrest.
So that would be correct then. What I'm saying is to the best of your knowledge, you cannot recall any time that you arrested somebody on state of New Mexico land with them having had their permission revoked by the state of New Mexico.
Correct. Can't recall, but I have.
Okay. So have you ever arrested somebody for trespassing on federal property?
From what I can recall, no. Unsure.
No, or you're unsure, because those are two significant things, sir. If you ask me if I committed a crime and I say no, and if I say unsure, those are two completely different answers and lead to two completely different follow-up questions.
I would say no, not on federal.
So you've never arrested somebody for trespassing on federal land?
From what I can recollect, no.
This is kind of speculation, I'll admit that, but are you aware of any of your coworkers who have ever arrested somebody on federal land for trespassing?
Be a little bit more specific on where you're referring to. Are you going to be referred to in the state of New Mexico and Texas?
Yes.
Germany?
Absolutely. Are you aware of any other New Mexico State Police? Are you officers who have arrested somebody for 30-14-1C while that person was on federal land?
Yes.
So you're aware of this happening?
Not this specific incident that we're here attending for today, but if we're talking about Hopewell Lake, then yes, I do.
You do what?
I do know that there's been arrests made at Hopewell Lake.
For trespassing?
Not for trespassing. Like I said, not related to this incident we're
But
discussing.
the question was, Officer Moreno,
Yeah, you did
please
not
do
ask
your
that.
best to just answer the question, okay? I asked you for trespassing, for criminal. I agree. I asked you to speculate a little bit, but I asked you if you're aware of any New Mexico State police officers who have arrested anyone for criminal trespassing on federal land, be that Hopewell Lake or other federal property located within the state of New Mexico.
I'm unaware.
Thank you. Have you arrested somebody for a state crime on federal land before?
I'm unaware.
You're unaware if you've ever arrested somebody
Yeah.
for on federal land?
Unaware. Yes, sir.
Have you ever arrested somebody for a federal crime on federal land?
Unaware.
You're not aware?
Unaware.
Okay. Have you ever arrested somebody at Hopewell Lake Campground?
Yes.
And what was that crime?
Going to be a criminal trespass, resisting and obstructing an officer, concealing identity, as well as disorderly disturbance on July 1st.
You arrested somebody that day
Yes.
and charged them with all that?
Yes.
And what was that person's name?
At the time of the investigation, John Doe, because he refused to give his first and last name. It was later identified as Lane Myers through the jail.
Okay, so I don't think we're on the same page here. We know you arrested Mr. Myers. That's why we're here.
Yes.
That's not what the question was.
It was. Yes, sir.
That was the question?
That was the question you asked, and I gave you a response.
Okay, let me ask it better then. So you must not have interpreted it correctly. Have you, other than Mr. Myers, okay? Other than Mr. Myers, have you ever arrested somebody at Hopewell Lake Campground?
Unsure.
You're unsure?
Yes, I'm unsure.
Okay. Did you swear an oath to uphold the New Mexico and United States Constitution?
Yes.
Did you swear an oath to uphold New Mexico state and local law?
Yes.
Did you swear an oath to uphold federal law?
If a federal law is broken, we can charge for it.
If federal law is broken, we can charge for it. Can you be more specific? Did you
So-
swear an oath to uphold federal law?
If an individual has a switch on a firearm, as a federal law that they're not allowed to have a switch. So we can arrest for that.
Did you swear an oath to uphold federal law?
I would say I'm unsure.
Thank you. Do you know what Article 2, Section 10 of the New Mexico Constitution is?
I do not.
You don't.
Not that I can recall, no.
You know what the First Amendment of the United States Constitution is?
I'm unsure.
Did you testify at the beginning of this that you swore an oath to uphold civil rights?
Yes.
What are those civil rights?
Freedom
That
of
you swore-
speech, religion, right to bear arms, search and seizure,
What do those fall under?
civil rights.
What is the right to bear arms?
Can have firearms with you.
Is that the
Doesn't-
Second Amendment?
I would say yes.
So you don't know what the First Amendment is?
Freedom of speech, religion. I don't know the whole civil rights.
I didn't even ask you. That's the thing, Moreno. That's the thing, sir. If you just actually respected my questions and answered the questions directly, you okay? Because I didn't ask you what to name the First Amendment. I asked you if you knew what it was.
Yes, I
Okay.
do know. Yes.
Do you know what protected liberty interests are?
I do not.
Do you know what protected speech is?
I do not.
Do you know what unprotected speech is?
I do not.
Do you know what the 14th Amendment is of the United States Constitution?
No, I do not.
Do you know what the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment is?
I do not.
Do you know what the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment is?
I do not.
Do you know what a traditional public forum is?
I do not.
Do you believe in the Constitution?
I do.
Do you think the Constitution's important?
Yes.
Do you think people should have civil rights?
I do, yes.
And you swore an oath to uphold them civil rights, right?
Yes.
Do you believe if someone has their civil rights violated, that the person responsible should be held accountable?
Depending on the situation. Depending on the situation.
Okay, let me give you a situation. The situation is, did someone have their civil rights violated?
When?
Ever. The question
Ever?
is, Officer Moreno, here's the question. Do you believe if someone has their civil rights violated, the person responsible should be held accountable?
Depends.
Depends on what?
Depends on the totality of the circumstance, if we're referring to law enforcement or public officials or general public.
I'm referring to an individual having their civil rights violated by anyone.
Unrelated to this incident that we're speaking about today.
I didn't mention anything about this incident. I'm asking if you believe someone has their civil rights violated, because remember, you just said that you believe in civil rights, you
Yes.
think the Constitution is important, you believe in the Constitution, you swore
Yes.
out to uphold civil rights. So my question is do you believe if somebody violates those civil rights that you've swore an oath to uphold, that you believe in, that you think are important, should that person be held responsible?
Depends.
On what?
Totality of the circumstance.
So it depends on if they violated the person's rights or not?
I don't. I'm unsure of what you're asking now.
I'm asking if you believe if someone has their civil rights violated. It doesn't necessarily mean you, okay? It doesn't mean you violated somebody's civil rights. Do you believe if the person walking down the street, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is a generalized question.
Okay.
Do you believe if someone, because the prior questions were, do you believe in the Constitution? You said yes. Do you think the Constitution is important? Do you think people should have civil rights? Okay, so you believe civil rights are important. You believe the Constitution is important. So if it's important, do you believe if somebody has their rights under the Constitution violated, should the person responsible be held accountable? It's a really simple question. Do you believe if someone has their civil rights violated, the person responsible for violating their rights should be held accountable?
Yes, they should be held accountable.
Thank you. Do you know the difference between apparent authority and actual authority?
Yes.
What are the differences?
Parent authority, someone who's in charge of their children, their own offspring. And a what else authority?
I'm going to let you start over with that, okay? Because I don't think you meant to say that. So I'm going to ask the question a little slower and a little clearer, okay?
Okay.
Do you know the difference between apparent authority and actual authority?
Oh, I thought you said a parents, as in a mom and dad authority figure. No, I do not.
So you do not know the difference between apparent authority and actual authority?
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with how Article 2, Section 10 covers actual authority?
I am unfamiliar.
So they didn't teach you about any of this at the academy?
Unsure.
You're unsure. Is the training from the academy publicly available?
Certifications, they are possibly, but the training that's received in the academy is not. You'd have to go through the academy to receive that training.
What I mean is, do you think, is it to the best of your knowledge, is a private citizen like me who's not in the academy able to request copies of everything that you're trained in the academy?
Yes.
So somebody like me could have a copy of your training, right? Manual.
Yes. Yes.
So do you recall being trained about actual authority?
Yes.
So you do know what actual authority is?
Yes.
Okay, so would you like to change your answer when I asked you, do you know the difference between apparent authority and actual authority?
I would not know. I would just keep it the same.
So you are aware of what actual authority is?
I would say authority in general, yes. I would just stick with authority.
That's what you can stick with that, but I need you to stick with what I'm asking, which is the legal term actual authority.
I don't know the legal term of actual authority, so I won't answer on that question.
Did they train you that in the academy?
I don't recall. No, I'm unsure.
So you don't recall, no, or you're unsure? Pick one.
Unsure.
Okay. So it is possible, you're just not sure.
Unsure.
Okay. So did you verify Doug Downey had the actual authority to request Mr. Myers be removed?
I did not verify, no.
Is that a legal requirement?
No.
You're not required to verify that the person requesting this person be removed from this land, you're not required to verify they have actual authority?
Depends. I would I just went for he was the camp
Okay,
host.
let's instead of being ambiguous, let's get really specific. And go back to the original question. Did you verify that Douglas Downey had the actual authority to request Mr. Myers be removed from Hopewell Lake Campground?
No, I did not verify.
Why did you choose not to verify Doug Downey had actual authority to request Mr. Myers be removed from the campground?
He was a reporting party.
Who was?
Mr. Downey.
So because Doug Downey was a reporting party, you chose not to verify if he had the actual authority to have Mr. Myers removed?
And due to what statement he provided us or what he initially told us he was a camp host.
Does Article 2, Section 10 require New Mexico law enforcement officers to verify actual authority?
I'm unsure.
You're unsure.
Yes.
But you're sure that you did not verify that Doug Downey had the actual authority to revoke somebody's First Amendment First Amendment liberty interest in a traditional public forum. You did not verify that.
I'm unsure.
You're unsure if you verified?
Yes.
You just said you didn't.
I'm unsure.
So you're changing your answer?
I would believe that's the same answer I gave previously, was unsure.
You're unsure if you verify why you're not sure, right?
Yes.
This isn't external. This is a question directly for you, Officer Moreno. There's no, asking somebody else, or it's this question. The answer to this question doesn't rely on the testimony of anybody else. It doesn't. So I'm asking you to give, in your best opinion of yourself, of your actions. I'm asking you to analyze your own actions. Why did you choose not to verify? Excuse me. Why did you choose to verify that Doug Downey did not? You know what I mean? Why did you choose? You already said you did not verify, and now I'm asking you, why not?
He's believed to be reasonable. He was a camp host, went for his word, interviewed him. Other than that, he stated he spoke with his supervisor.
So you're saying you took that those statements from Doug Downey as if he had authority?
I would say yes. Yes.
Okay, so is that consistent with New Mexico state law?
I'm unsure.
You're not sure of the law, but you chose to not verify that Doug Downey actually had that authority because he was the reporting party and he acted like you're familiar with, you know, a like you did. We'll get to that. All right, so you chose not to verify. All right, so we'll go down here a little bit. Okay, so all right, we'll ask this for now. All right, so after you spoke to Doug, right, what was your reasonable articulable suspicion to a non-consensual detainment of Mr. Myers as you walked away from Doug Downey?
Off of the statement Mr. Doug Downey gave me.
Excuse me?
Off of what? Off of the statement that was given to me. Off of what?
That's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you,
Officer
Moreno,
yeah.
What was your reasonable articulable suspicion to non-consensually detain Mr. Myers after you spoke to Doug Downey?
I'm unsure of what you're asking me.
I'm asking you, what was your reasonable articulable suspicion to non-consensually detain Mr. Myers after your initial conversation with Doug Downey?
I'm unfamiliar with those terms. Are you referring to detaining Mr. Myers after what Mr. Douglas informed me?
You're not familiar with the term reasonable articulable suspicion?
Not in the context you're trying to provide it in.
I'm asking you, Officer Moreno, the arresting officer, you, sir.
Yeah.
The person who arrested me and put me in jail on my honeymoon. I'm
Yes.
asking you to answer, what was your reasonable articulable suspicion to non-consensually detain Mr. Myers prior to arriving at his campsite? When you spoke to Doug Downey, Officer Moreno, you spoke to Doug Downey. You walked away from that conversation. You got in your car and you drove to the campsite with Mr. Myers and you non-consensually detained him after you got out of your vehicle. Okay. What was your reasonable articulable suspicion to non-consensually detain Mr. Myers after speaking with Doug Downey the first time? Before you drove to the campsite, what was your reasonable articulable suspicion to detain Mr. Myers against his will?
Criminal trespass.
So, okay, 30-14-1C.
Criminal trespass, yes. The state statute that's on the criminal complaint.
Okay, that's the charge or the crime you believe. But now I'm asking you what your reasonable articulable suspicion that the crime of criminal trespassing was being committed.
The statement Doug Downey provided me, or Douglas.
The statement Doug Downey provided you, which you did not verify his authority, and you took the statement Doug Downey gave you, and you thought that was enough of a pre-detainment investigation. That's all you needed. All you needed was to hear from Doug Downey?
Doug Downey was the involved party, yes.
So anybody that calls 911 is automatically telling the truth and you do whatever they say?
Not whatever they say, but they are deemed reliable.
They're deemed reliable because they called 911?
Yes, and that's when an investigation takes place.
So is it your testimony that do you believe do people ever call 911 and lie?
I would say yes.
So you would say that people call 911 and lie, but you just stated that because somebody calls 911, that makes them a reliable witness.
They're reliable off of the information they give us, but we are unsure if they're lying or not until an investigation happens.
So is it your testimony that if somebody when somebody calls 911, whatever they say in that call gives you reasonable suspicion to detain someone?
Depending on the investigation, depending on what the call type is.
Okay, what I'm asking you specifically is the statements to a 911 dispatcher, does that represent enough reasonable articulable suspicion for you to detain somebody based on their call?
I would say depending on what the call is. Depending on what the call is.
Depending on what the call is. Isn't the law the same for every call?
Yes, law is the same.
So is it the same or is it depend on the call?
The law applies to everyone. I don't know.
Equally. Does the law apply to everyone equally?
Huh?
Does the law apply to everyone equally?
The law applies to everyone, yes.
Equally.
Yes.
Can you say that? The law applies to everyone equally?
I'm not going to say that, but the law applies to everyone.
Okay. So working back to what you just said then, the law applies to everyone. And now my question is when somebody calls 911, is the statement they give, does that meet the legal standard for reasonable articulable suspicion? Can you take what the dispatcher tells you and go detain someone?
Yes, depending on what the situation is.
What are some situations where somebody can call 911 and the police can just go detain somebody because of the contents of the call?
Domestic violence, criminal trespass, fights in progress. Those are just a couple of examples. I don't know.
Are those special laws or would those be the same? Do those laws hold the same legal standard as other laws?
I'm unsure.
So are those some type of, the laws you just referred to, do those come with some type of special exception where you're not required to investigate?
I'm unsure of what you're asking me.
Well, I asked you, what laws are the laws that you're referring to when you refer to it depends on the law? The question was, is a 911 call does the statements given in a 911 call by a caller, do those meet the legal standard required for reasonable articulable suspicion, or are you still required to investigate?
We're still required to investigate.
For all crimes, right? All crimes.
Yes, all crimes.
So the statements by the 911 caller under the criminal law standards and state statute and case law, what the statements given to the 911 operator do not constitute reasonable suspicion or probable cause on your behalf, right? You're supposed to still respond to the call and investigate, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What investigation? Actually, you know what? Don't answer that yet. Okay. So moving forward, what was your probable cause to arrest Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing?
Probable cause. So it's going to be criminal trespass, refuse to leave. It's going to be resisting and concealing identity and disorderly disturbance.
That's the probable cause for criminal trespassing. I don't know why you keep referring to those other things because I'm only charged with 3 crimes.
Those were at the time of their arrest. Those were the charges that were filed.
And why weren't those, why wasn't I arraigned on those?
I'm unsure.
Did they lack probable cause?
Unsure.
Okay. What was the probable, I'm gonna ask you this question again because your answer was nowhere near the answer for the question, okay? What was your probable cause to arrest Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing 30-14-1C?
I gave you the answer and you
No, you
weren't
didn't. You talked about
satisfied.
other crimes. I'm not asking you to recite what you arrested me for. I'm not asking you to recite crimes that were not charged. I'm asking you to specifically articulate the probable cause that you had when you arrested Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing.
Refusing to leave when his
Refusing to leave
permission was
Hopewell
revoked.
Lake Campground?
Correct.
Was he required to leave?
Yes, he was told to leave.
That's not what I asked you. I'm asked. So
You did ask him that, and he answered it. Ask
I asked
another
if he was
question.
required to leave.
Yes, he was.
And he
had to
answered
say-
that question. Now move on to your next question. You just don't like his answers, but keep asking a question and move on.
I object to that, sir. I asked him if Mr. Myers was required to leave. It's a different word. The host telling someone to leave and being required to leave are two different things, and we both know that. So my
Ask a question.
What was your probable cause? And he said, because the host said he had to leave. And I said, was he required?
Are you asking him
to
a
leave?
question right now?
Was Mr. Myers required to leave?
Yes, he was.
Under what authority?
Criminal trespass under state of New Mexico.
So you had probable cause based on,
The totality of the circumstance.
so your probable cause was that Mr. Myers was what?
Criminal trespassing.
Based on what?
Statements in the investigation.
Statements by the host?
Correct. And the statements Mr. Myers made.
But not anything that you concluded based on your investigation.
That's not what I said. I gave you an answer. It was related to the question. At that point, you
What-
just seemed satisfied with the response, so I'm unsure on what type of response you're looking for.
You still haven't answered what your probable cause is. You keep referring to the charge code, criminal trespass. I need you to articulate the things you observed or the things that you came to a conclusion in your pre or detainment investigation.
During the investigation, Mr. Myers stated multiple times he wasn't leaving. He was asked to leave, refused to leave. That time, criminal trespassing was the charge that came.
Okay. So you're referring to your investigation as after you got to the campsite.
Yes,
Okay. Did you investigate prior to getting to the campsite?
yes.
In what method did you investigate?
Talked to the reporting party, received his statement on the situation that transpired.
Did you talk to any other guests at the campground?
Just Mr. Douglas,
Doug Downey, the host?
correct. Mr. Downey.
Why didn't you talk to any other campers in an attempt to verify the statements by Mr. Downey? It's a full campground of people. Did you not feel compelled to verify the statements by Mr. Downey by possibly talking to another camper who may have witnessed this?
I just talked to Mr. Downey, who was just the involved party at the time.
So you took his word as the authority
Correct.
without
One
investigating further.
That was my investigation, is gathering statements.
A statement from Mr. Downey?
Yes.
Did you gather statements from anyone else?
No.
Are you required to do an investigation before you detain and arrest someone?
You can detain someone and conduct an investigation where they're not free to leave.
Really?
Yes. To
What do you
complete the
need in order to do that?
reasonable suspicion, statements.
So you need reasonable suspicion prior to detaining someone?
Yes.
And what was your reasonable suspicion
Criminal
to detain
trespass.
Mr. Myers?
Criminal trespass.
No, what was your reasonable suspicion that that criminal trespass
Criminal
was taking
trespass.
place?
Was the
That's
statement
not articulable suspicion.
was the
I can read
statement
you what
that
the
Mr.
prosecutor
Douglas
wrote.
the statement that Mr. Downey provided me, as well as the observation of Mr. Myers still on the campground.
That was your suspicion prior to detaining Mr. Myers initially.
Yes,
And then after detaining Mr. Myers, you gathered the probable cause necessary to arrest him?
correct.
And what steps did you take to gather that?
Before continuing, I need to use the restroom. Just got done.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Take a leak.
I don't know how to pause the recording, and I'm afraid it would stop, and so I'm
just
just
let
going
it
to keep
roll
the
then, I
recording
guess.
going. What?
You want my list of questions? You're not communicating
No.
with him, are you? I know we've never met, and I've been sending you a lot of, but like, you know, do you want my questions so you can send back any ones you're going to object to? Because he's not even answering the questions. He's beating around the bush.
The recording. I'm going to keep the recording going because I don't know how to stop it.
Perfect.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
All right.
The other guy paused it. There he is.
No, I think we're still recording. Go ahead.
All right, cool. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yep, we're
Okay.
on.
All right. So we were asking you about the probable cause to arrest Mr. Myers that you thought or that you are articulating that you have. And you stated basically that you took Mr. Downey's word. I don't want to put word, I don't want, so to summarize, I'm not. But you basically said that, Mr. Downey called 911, you got there, you took his statement as the only statement, and then you proceeded to the campsite to detain Mr. Myers. Is that about
Not to detain, no. To conduct an investigation.
Okay, so you're saying that when you left the host and went to the campsite, it wasn't to detain Mr. Myers?
It was to conduct an investigation and ask Mr. Myers if he would leave.
Do you need reasonable articulable suspicion to conduct an investigation?
No, you can conduct well, yeah, probably reasonable suspicion, yes. That someone's
So
committing
when
a
I just said
crime
that
or-
you believe, so when I just said that you believed you had reasonable suspicion when you left Doug Downey to come detain Mr. Myers, because the only way you can do an investigation is if there's two parties. And Mr. Myers, did he consent? Because so in order to clarify what you said when you said you got to the campsite and conducted an investigation, that's why I was asking you what your reasonable articulable suspicion was is prior to getting the campsite. Because in order for you to come to the campsite and conduct an investigation, you need reasonable articulable suspicion to even do that, because neither one of us consented to you being there. So I'm
Are
asking
you asking
what
a
was the
question?
reason-
Because it sounds like
Yeah.
you just made a statement. Can you ask him a question, please?
Yes. Thank you. No worries. What was your reasonable suspicion to come to the campsite and then conduct an investigation?
criminal trespass.
No, what was your reasonable suspicion that criminal trespassing was occurring?
Mr. Myers was asked to leave. He was still on the campgrounds. Upon arriving to his campsite that he was at that was unpaid for, he was asked to leave, stated no. Multiple times he was asked to leave. At that point, showed no sign of not wanting to leave.
So are you saying that had Mr. Myers simply left, he would not have been arrested?
It could have resulted in something totally different.
Why is that?
He's wanting to leave. Camp Post told him to leave. I asked him to leave. If he would have just packed, if Mr. Myers would have just said, okay, I'll leave. Or if we could have sat down with the camp host, have a talk about anything that transpired and see if we can come to a resolution that may even have Mr. Myers still remain on the camp host or camp lot, and he paid for it, it could have changed the outcome of the circumstances that happened.
And what authority would you have been acting under when you let Mr. Myers leave?
State police.
All right, so 3014-1C, I don't read anywhere where it says it's negotiable. It says that you've been previously banned.
It could be negotiable through whoever's the manager, supervisor, camp host, etc. You can talk to them. I mean, I can't persuade someone, but I can ask them, hey, are you willing to let Mr. Myers stay here? He traveled this far. It's his honeymoon. If he keeps his dog on a leash, respects the rules and regulations, pays the camp lot, would you be okay with him staying? And if he said, if Mr. Myers can maintain his composure, just keeps to himself, keeps his dog on leash, yes, I'd allow him to stay. But that's not what happened.
Was Mr. Myers required to have his dog on a leash?
From what the camp host, I would say yes, because the camp host stated that the dogs did chase him.
We'll get to that. Trust me, we'll get to that. But is Mr. Myers required to have his dogs on a leash?
I'm unsure.
If you don't, legally, I'm not asking about the host. I'm asking about law.
There's no laws that come to mind.
Okay. So why would Mr. Myers need to agree to keep his dog on a leash in order to remain at the campsite?
Due to the dogs being aggressive towards the camp host.
Allegedly.
Well, in your words, allegedly. But what was given to me and what was the totality of the circumstance and my observations, it would come to believe a reasonable person would suspect the dogs to be aggressive.
Really? What if you found out that they were trained to go to nursing homes?
At the time, based off the totality, the circumstance, and what was given to me, I would believe the dogs to have been aggressive.
Okay. Did you ask any of the other campers if they observed Mr. Myers' dogs being aggressive to the camp host?
So for future questions, I did not speak with any outside entities. Only after the incident, I asked some campers if I may use their phone. Other than that, did not speak with anyone outside of the investigation, just Mr. Myers, Mr. Downey, just the involved parties.
So your testimony is that after speaking to Mr. Doug Downey, you concluded that Mr. Myers was criminally trespassing, his dogs were being aggressive, and you had enough information that you didn't even need to ask any of the other 50 people that were standing there around.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, we'll move on for now. So I'm going to move to the next question, but I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. Because when I previously, quote unquote, summarized it or made a statement, you know, it wasn't taken the way that I anticipated. So what I'm trying to say is that because I've asked you multiple times and you still haven't actually given me an answer, what the reasonable articulable suspicion you had was to go to the campsite and do a further investigation, but we'll just move on for now, okay? Okay, are you familiar with exigent circumstances?
Yes.
What are those?
Where we can act on warrantless situations, enter a residence, someone's life may be in danger. I can see them on the floor, the door's locked, enter the residence. Someone's committed a felony. Situations where you can prevent a greater outcome of something happening, medical, felony, something that can potentially cause a great deal of harm or danger.
What were the exigent circumstances that led you to arrest Mr. Myers without a warrant?
Resisting, refusing to leave the camp post, his irateness, his refusal to leave, as well as not presenting identification when asked. That was during the investigation.
All right, so I just asked you what exigent circumstances are, and you articulated some. Which of those circumstances you just articulated are exigent?
Resisting and refusing to leave, I would say.
Okay, so just so we make sure we're on the same. So I'm asking you what the exigent circumstances are that led you to detain and arrest Mr. Myers without a warrant. Okay, so if your answer
feel
is
you
resisting,
understand what exigent circumstances are, and you're trying to impose a term that you possibly may not know about into a call, I would say conducting an investigation. Based on the investigation and what transpired, it led to an arrest of Mr. Myers.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm asking you, what were the exigent circumstances?
I provided you a statement. Other than that, there's no other statements that I can provide you that would suffice.
But you did not articulate the exigent circumstances.
Okay. I did.
Under New Mexico law, new exigent circumstances must be present for you to arrest somebody in public without a warrant for a misdemeanor. I asked you if you knew what exigent circumstances are. You said yes. You named a couple, and you named a couple that weren't. So you clearly know what they are. And now my next question is what were the exigent circumstances? You need to testify to this, okay? You're going to need to testify what were the exigent circumstances, specifically articulatable, use words from the Webster's Dictionary.
Yep.
What were your exigent circumstances that you observed prior to grabbing Mr. Myers? Because if you're saying resisting arrest, that's too late. You needed the circumstances before that.
Okay. It was criminal trespass at that time, refused to leave.
That's the crime, sir. That's the crime.
Yeah.
I'm asking you what
Ask
were the
your question. Don't argue with the witness. Ask your question and move on.
Thank you. So you're not, all right. So what were the exigent, I'm going to ask you one more time and move on. What were the exigent circumstances that led you to arrest Mr. Myers without a warrant?
criminal trespass, concealing identity, resisting, and disorderly disturbance.
Thank you. What state of New Mexico interest were you protecting when you arrested Mr. Myers in public without a warrant in exigent circumstances?
Further escalation of the public as well as the camp hosts.
Further escalation of
Potential harms that could happen. A fight. Mr. Douglas was, or Mr. Downey apologized. Say he didn't want Mr. Myers there. I didn't want a physical altercation to ensue between both parties.
Did you have reason to believe that would happen?
Yes, based on the totality of the circumstance, I had reasonable to believe, yes, that could have.
You had
possibly
reason
happened.
to believe that Mr. Myers and Mr. Downey could get in a fight?
Possibly.
Two willing combatants.
Possibly.
Based on what?
Based on the totality of the circumstance, the irateness of Mr. Myers, the demeanor of him, the tensing up, the resisting, as well as just the aggression and refusal to leave the campgrounds. I had reason to believe if I would have left and Mr. Douglas returned, there would have been some sort of physical altercation between both parties.
But you didn't observe any physical altercation between Mr. Myers and Mr. Downey.
No,
You did not take testimony from any other campers there that there was a physical altercation between Mr. Myers and Mr. Downey.
no,
You did not take statements from anyone that anyone observed Mr. Myers and Mr. Downey in a potential physical altercation.
no.
What are you basing your statements that it's possible there could have been a physical altercation on then if you had no testimony in that direction?
I did. It was going to be Mr. Downey's test or statement that he provided me.
Which was not corroborated by anyone else, correct?
No,
Okay. So the state of New Mexico interest you were protecting when you arrested Mr. Myers in public without a warrant, absent exigent circumstances were criminal trespassing?
criminal trespassing, resisting, concealing identity, and disorderly disturbance.
What is the standard for reasonableness of an arrest under Article 2, Section 10 of the New Mexico Constitution?
I'm unsure.
Did Mr. Myers' arrest meet that reasonableness standard?
I'm unsure if it related to what you're explaining to me. I don't know.
Do you believe that Mr. Myers' arrest was reasonable?
Yes, 100%, yes.
Based on the exigent circumstances that you articulated?
Based off the investigation that took place, yes.
Do you know what the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution is?
Yes.
What does the Fourth Amendment protect against?
Illegal search and seizures, movements, your property, not going inside your residence, mobile home, your freedom to leave.
Does it talk about reasonable?
I'm unsure. I don't know the exact verbatim definition of the Fourth Amendment.
It says, okay. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizure shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or thing to be seized. But are you aware of the standard under Article 2, Section 10, which you've already stated no? Okay, we'll move on then. Do you know what U.S. 42, Section 1983 is?
No.
Do you know what the federal statute for criminal trespassing is?
No.
Did you feel threatened by Mr. Myers?
I felt he posed a threat. Yes.
Did you feel threatened, Officer Moreno?
Yes.
Oh, you felt threatened?
Yes.
All right, we're going to pull up some video then. I have a $300 laptop, you can see. But here we go.
Right now, you're kidnapping me. You're assaulting me.
So I'm gonna ask you nicely, please put your hands behind your back.
For what crime?
Okay, you're trespassing.
Then we'll leave. Ask us to leave and we'll leave.
Can you hear that video, Officer Moreno?
Yes, I can.
All right. Go ahead and listen to this.
You haven't asked us to leave. You came up and said the land manager wants us to leave. You didn't say, so you need to leave. You haven't even given me a chance to comply. You have your hands on me before you gave me a chance to comply. Call back up.
Okay.
Press your alarm and call back up.
You're gonna place your hands behind your back.
Injure
Stop
me.
resisting. Okay. What am I being detained for? Look, I'm not gonna go round and round with you.
You're going to go around because you're going to call your supervisor. If you're threatened, call your supervisor. I'll
I'm not
step out.
threatening.
We're going to play it again.
Round and round with you.
You're going to go around because you're going to call your supervisor. If you're threatened, call your supervisor. I'll
I'm not
step out.
threatening.
So is your statement now different than your statement at the time?
It's a statement. It's not how one feels.
Which is a
Words
statement?
and feelings are different. Words and feelings are different. Just because I said I'm not threatened doesn't mean I felt threatened at that moment.
I think you meant to say it the other way. So you're saying that
No,
You-
I said
you
it how I
said
said
you were
it.
not
Just because I
threatened.
said I wasn't threatened to you at that moment doesn't mean I was threatened emotionally, or yeah.
so you're saying despite you saying I do not feel threatened, you're testifying now that you actually did feel threatened.
At that time I still felt threatened. Yes, just because I stated I wasn't threatened doesn't mean I felt threatened.
I
I think you don't understand
I
the
hear
difference between a
Mr.
statement
Wahlquist,
and the feelings.
I don't want to be so. I'm asking you if you felt threatened. You
Felt, yes.
said no.
You just answered it. Felt. You said felt. I did feel threatened. Just because I stated I wasn't threatened, I felt threatened.
So you're saying yes, in the moment when you said I do not feel in that video, you actually did feel threatened.
Yes.
Why didn't you call back up?
There's comms in that area is very horrendous. There's no communication. Backup was within 10-15 minutes behind me.
So you chose to engage in a physical altercation with somebody you felt threatened by?
Due to the totality of the circumstance and what was already happening, there's no choice. That's what we are trained for. We work alone.
So you're saying there was no choice but for you to physically take Mr. Myers down?
At that point, that was the best option. That was not take down, but to place Mr. Myers in detainment.
And place Mr. Myers in detainment for what crime?
Criminal trespass, resisting at that time.
Does the state of New Mexico consider criminal trespassing exigent circumstances for a use of force arrest in public?
Depending on the situation.
I just gave you the situation. Criminal trespassing in public, no warrant.
Are we referring to what transpired right there, or referring to in general?
In general, this the law. I'm referring to the law. I'm referring to Article 2, Section 10 of New Mexico Constitution. It addresses reasonableness. I'm asking you to testify as to what the circumstances you testified. The exigent circumstances were criminal trespassing. That's why you felt that it was an imminent threat. And so I'm asking you, does Article 2, Section 10 or New Mexico state law or criminal code or case law consider criminal trespassing in public and an arrestable offense absent exigent circumstances and not requiring reasonable force?
Rephrase that into a smaller sentence that's
Okay.
direct to the point, because I feel you're adding words together to make a sentence
Okay,
sound
okay.
constitutional.
Okay, so New Mexico Constitution, Article 2, Section 10 addresses the standard of reasonableness for an arrest in the state of New Mexico for a nonviolent misdemeanor in public without a warrant. Okay, so this is written somewhere. So I was wondering if you knew that off the top of your head.
Not what you just stated. I don't know that verbatim.
Okay, and you testified that you believe the arrest was reasonable.
Yes.
And you believe that you needed to immediately detain and place Mr. Myers in handcuffs because there's a threat.
Not a threat. Prior to me putting my hands on him, Mr. Myers repeatedly stated he wasn't going to leave. At that point, made the decision to place Mr. Myers in double lock hands restraints mechanisms. When attempting to do that, Mr. Myers then tensed up, resisting, not following commands that were given to him. At that point, once he did approach me closely while having my hands on him, I felt a threat. That's where Mr. Myers needed to be detained.
Did Mr. Myers approach you, or did you approach Mr. Myers?
I approached Mr. Myers when I put hands on him, and then Mr. Myers then approached me closely. He tilted his body towards me, was in a pretty close proximity of my person.
Okay, let's not confuse it here. You're saying that Mr. Myers approached you, and that's why you detained him, not that Mr. Myers approached you after you detained him.
I approached Mr. Myers to detain him.
So Mr. Myers did not approach you?
No, not.
Did Mr. Myers walk away from you?
No.
Mr. Myers did not walk away from you?
Prior to what? But prior to the detainment, Mr. Myers, prior to the detainment of me putting hands on Mr. Myers, did walk away multiple times, refusing to leave.
So he walked away from you?
Multiple times, yes.
So he wasn't walking towards you in a threatening manner?
At that time, no. Until Mr. Myers stated he wasn't going to leave, then I put my hands on Mr. Myers.
So any time prior to you putting your hands on Mr. Myers, did Mr. Myers approach you in a threatening way?
Prior to the detainment, no.
Okay, so you stated that the reason that you felt it was necessary to detain Mr. Myers was because there was a threat. So since I wasn't able to
state that.
Okay, let me refer. What state of New Mexico interest were you protecting then? What was the imminent threat when you arrested Mr. Myers?
Criminal trespass and resisting.
No, what was the threat? Who was being threatened?
The officer, Officer Moreno.
The same officer who just testified that Mr. Myers did not approach him in a threatening way and he did not feel threatened prior to detaining him?
I did not state that. Or no, I stated that I wasn't threatened prior to detainment, but after I chose to place Mr. Myers in double locked hand restraints mechanism, he tensed up, started resisting, started yelling irately, got closely and close to my face. At that point, yes, I did feel threatened. Mr. Myers did pose some sort of threat towards me or towards the officer, where at that moment he was going to have to be placed in double locked hands restraints mechanism for further escalation, which resorted in a use of force.
But prior to you grabbing Mr. Myers' arms, your testimony is that you did not feel threatened, or he did not come towards you in a threatening manner immediately preceding that.
He didn't come towards me in a threatening manner, no.
Okay, is there any other than Officer Moreno, was there anybody else that was threatened at that time? Or could have been threatened?
Just Officer Moreno.
Prior to you touching Mr. Myers? Because you've already testified that Mr. Officer Moreno was not threatened.
Mr. Myers, I answered the question. I feel it's just the same repetitive question over and over. If we can just continue on to a next question. I answered the question. It seems you're not satisfied with the statement I provided with you. At this point, I don't know what type of statement you're looking for. So if we can proceed with another question, or
you don't, unfortunately, if there was an objection, the prosecutor would have it. So because you just testified, Officer Moreno, that prior to grabbing Mr. Myers and detaining him with your physical hand on his hand, you did not feel threatened and Mr. Myers did not come towards you in a threatening manner. Okay, we established that there was no direct threat felt by Officer Moreno. Okay, now it's a different question. Does Officer Moreno feel that Mr. Myers was a threat to anyone else other than Officer Moreno?
Yes.
Who?
The camp host, Mr. Downey.
So you felt compelled to arrest Mr. Myers because you felt he posed a threat to the camp host?
I did not. No, that's not what I stated. I arrested Mr. Myers because he refused to leave when was told to leave. I said
detained, not arrest, detained. We're talking about detainment. You're saying that prior to you putting hands on me, you did not feel threatened. I'm asking you, prior to you putting hands on me, do you think anybody else was threatened?
Yes, Mr. Downey.
In what way was Douglas Downey threatened?
By your demeanor, your irateness, proximity of how you approached Mr. Downey, your dogs running towards Mr. Downey in an aggressive manner, Mr. Downey attempting to protect himself from further escalation with his mace.
So because of all that, you felt that you could detain, you felt that you were compelled to detain me for criminal trespassing?
Not compelled, but to detain you and conduct an investigation.
Did you conduct an investigation after you detained Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing?
Attempted to, but Mr. Myers was uncooperative, irate, and refusing to comply. So, based off of
is
that,
is Mr. Myers required to participate in his own investigation?
When he's an involved party, he doesn't have to talk. He doesn't have to speak, or he doesn't have to give us testimony or statement on what happened.
So if a subject refuses to participate in your investigation, does that mean you're not required to have an investigation?
No, we're required to have an investigation.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you again, what was your did you investigate after you detained, before you arrested? So now you detained Mr. Myers. Okay, we'll just watch it on video because we'll just watch it on video. So there's no confusion.
Is this leading up to a question?
Absolutely. I asked you. He doesn't want to answer it. I'm asking him what his investigation was after he detained me and prior to arresting me. And what is it? He said he didn't give an answer. So here we're going to watch it. He said that I wouldn't cooperate with his investigation. I'm not required to, but we're gonna watch it.
Right now, you're kidnapping me. You're assaulting me.
Okay, we'll start here.
You realize you just lost your career.
She's an attorney for the federal government, all right? Put you on your side? For sure. For sure. Now tell me why you came up and grabbed me without saying put my hands behind my back.
I'll place this on your foot.
What? Okay. Okay.
Because all this was blacked out in the body cam.
And I'm detained for trespassing.
Get you up, okay?
For what?
Why are you arresting him?
I'm gonna sit here until your backup comes. I'm not getting up till your supervisor comes. If you're threatened by me, I'm sitting here in cuffs. There's no
Where-
threat.
That's twice now you said you weren't threatened after I was in cuffs.
Then back up and call supervisor.
I just want to get you up, okay?
That's another statement. Can you ask a question so we can move on?
Yeah, we're watching the video for context.
Fine, you can breathe.
I just want to get you over there.
I'm not going by your card, so you call supervisor.
So,
Why?
Do you know the law that you uphold?
the reason why
What law am I violating?
you're going to let me speak?
No. Because you came and violated.
Here, we'll get right to the statement.
He called
Watch
you.
this.
He called you. Moreno. Why did you roll up and pull your gun up like a hard ass?
Okay.
You know, public land. You like my attitude? Your ass is fucking toast, motherfucker.
Yeah, you're resisting.
You didn't say put my hand. Had you simply said, sir, can you place your hand?
We're getting to the point here.
Sir, I'm not. No, you have to call back up. You're violating your permission for me to be in handcuffs right now. Did you witness it? Me, sir, please put your hands behind your back. You're being detained.
So right here, I ask you what your suspicion
For
is.
me to be in handcuffs right now. Did you witness it?
You ignore me.
You're going to stand up, facing the reverse, and
I'm not. No, you have to call back up. You're violating your own policies right now. You're committing a crime by not. I'm asking you to call a supervisor. Please call a supervisor.
All right, I'm going to step you up. We're going to go back to my vehicle. Okay?
Please call a supervisor.
So I'm going to get you up. Are you going to work with me?
No.
I'm going to.
Please call a
I'm
supervisor.
going to ask you again. If not, I am going to use force.
Please call a supervisor.
If you don't,
Please call a super. They're all
I'm
watching you.
going to use force to bring you back up. Okay?
What am I standing up for?
Place you in the back seat of my vehicle.
What are you arresting him for?
Detained for what?
For what?
Detained.
For what?
Am I arrested or am I detained?
You're detained at this point.
So at that point, I was detained. Is that correct?
You're detained at that point, yes.
Okay.
But
Okay,
you're
now
ultimately
sit right
going to be
here.
We'll let
arrested.
it play for a second.
Complete your investigation, sir. Do you want me to stand up? And I'm being detained, right?
Yes, please.
I'm not arrested, right?
Not as of now.
Okay.
Okay.
Stand up. You want to help me stand up?
Yes, sir.
Grab my right arm.
All right.
Not my right arm. That's my left.
Is it injured?
Thank you.
No, he's fine.
So,
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Here, we'll skip this little Justin thing. We'll get to the meat of it right here. Okay, so I'm detained. You stand me up. You walk me over to the car.
I'm detained. I'm not arrested.
You said I'm detained.
I'll sit right here on your bumper. No problem. I'm not going. I'll sit right here. I'm detained. I'm not arrested. Call back up. Do your investigation. So you said I'm detained, right?
at this point,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now when
So when you detain someone.
so if I'm detained, that means you're going to sit right here and complete an investigation, and then at the conclusion of your investigation, you're going to determine if there's probable cause to arrest me. Okay. So get the investigation. So I didn't resist shit, bro. Don't try that.
Officer Moreno, would you testify that this is when the investigation into the detainment of criminal trespassing began?
No.
When did that begin?
As soon as I stepped out the vehicle to speak with you.
You already had probable cause?
Probable cause for what?
Well, let's just back up for a second. You've clarified and the video stated, and you've clarified based on the video that I was only detained in that moment.
In the video, yes, I clarified, or that's what I stated.
So I'm detained at that moment. So that means you need reasonable articulable suspicion. And while I'm detained, you're going to search for probable cause.
There was probable cause. You're ultimately going to be arrested. Only reason
So
why
you
I
had
told you is because you were going to refuse to go in the rear seat of my patrol vehicle You weren't complying. Prior to that investigation, I did ask you if you were going to
All right,
leave.
let's not waste
stated
time,
no.
sir.
At
Sir,
that
time
time,
out.
I decided to
This
place
isn't-
attempt to place you in double
Sir,
lockdown
sir,
restraints
you're wasting
mechanism.
valuable time talking about things that aren't relevant. I asked you if I was detained at this point, and you said yes. At this, that means that you've testified now multiple times that at this moment you did not have probable cause to arrest me, right?
I did not
You did
state
not have
that.
probable cause to
There was
arrest Mr.
probable
Myers.
cause. There was probable cause at that time to arrest you.
So why did you state that Mr. Myers was only detained, not arrested?
Due to your irritability, refusing to listen to commands, it was best to try to put you in the rear seat of my patrol vehicle quickly as possible before any further escalation.
Okay, but what does that got to do with the investigation to determine probable cause? I'm asking
I
you,
already
sir.
stated.
You did not. Okay, you keep talking about other things, shifting this away. You stated multiple times. You just watched the video where you said you are not arrested. You are detained. You are detained. You are detained for criminal trespassing. You sat me on the thing right there, and you said you were going to do an investigation. Okay, I am now charged in a criminal court for criminal trespassing. At what point?
Are you asking a question?
Yes. He doesn't seem to want to answer it. When did it go from being detained to being arrested? Where's the investigation? What did you determine?
I determined
It
you
sounded
were
like there were
criminally-
3 questions there, and I
Because
feel like
I've
you're going to
already
get
asked
upset.
these.
You just asked him 3 questions in one question, and now when he starts to answer all 3 of them at once, you're going to get upset with him because he's talking about a lot of things. How about you break up your 3 questions into 1 question each?
No worries. I'll do that right now. There's a little delay too. So when you say something, take your mouth and then I don't hear the audio for a second. My direct question is, after you place Mr. Myers right here, okay? So we're picking this up from the point in time in the video. You can see where Mr. Myers is sitting there, and you're doing your investigation while Mr. Myers is detained.
You're
What?
arrested.
So I wasn't detained, I was arrested?
You're arrested at that point, yes.
Okay, 1 second then. Let's back up for a second.
For what?
Am I arrested or am I detained?
You're detained at this point.
Okay, well then I'll sit right here because I don't need to go in your car to be detained. Complete your
Okay, so detained.
I'm detained. I'm not arrested. Call back up. Do your investigation. So you said
Don't.
I'm detained. I'm not arrested.
Oops, I'm trying to go back to where you said I'm detained, not
Don't.
arrested.
I'll sit right here on your bumper. No problem. No, I'm not going. I'll sit right here. I'm detained. I'm not arrested. Call back up. Do your investigation. So you said I'm detained, right?
At this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now.
Okay, so at this point, immediately subsequent to you saying at this point you're only detained. So now we're picking it up right there. You just told me to my face I'm only detained.
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Okay. But now you're testifying that I was actually under arrest?
Oh, you were under arrest, yes. I just told you were being detained to get some sort of compliance out of you to be placed in the rear seat of my patrol vehicle.
So you lied to me?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll put this one down here for a second. So at what point did you determine there was probable cause to arrest Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing if he was already in that video arrested for criminal trespassing?
I'm re-ask your question. I'm unsure.
It's pretty simple, Mr. Moreno. You just said that I was in the video that we were going over in relation to me being detained. You said actually in that video you are actually, see when you say right here, you say
Go in your car to be detained. Complete your investigation.
What are you arresting him for?
Detained for what?
For what?
Detained.
For what?
Am I arrested or am I detained?
You're detained at this point.
Okay, well then I'll sit.
so you're saying, so right now I'll give you another chance. So at that point, am I detained or arrested?
At that point, I told you you're detained, but you're ultimately going to be arrested.
And your reasonable articulate suspicion to detain me was?
Criminal trespass, resisting.
And your probable cause to arrest me for criminal trespassing was?
Criminal trespass and resisting.
No, what was the probable cause that you believe that you investigate? You did an investigation. You determined there was probable
You
cause. What
stated
was the
multiple
probable
times
cause?
that you weren't leaving. You stated multiple times that you weren't leaving. At that point, decided to place you in detainment. Once I attempted to place you in detainment, you resisted.
So that was the probable cause to arrest me for criminal trespassing?
And yes,
Earlier on, we went over where 30-14-1 says, the above named defendant did knowingly enter or remain at Hopewell campsite owned and operated by the state of New Mexico, and permission had been denied to the defendant by the custodian of the lands.
yes,
So you did an investigation and came to that conclusion
yes,
prior to this moment right here when you stated you are only detained, you're not arrested?
I stated that, but yes, I did come to that conclusion.
So you believe that when you arrived at the campsite, you had probable cause to arrest Mr. Myers?
Not as soon as I arrived, but as I investigated, ultimately, yes, it came to that conclusion.
Aren't you required to have the reasonable suspicion to detain somebody before you detain them?
There was, yes.
Before?
Yes, there was. You were still there on the campsite.
I didn't ask you what it was.
campus.
Time out. I didn't ask what I'm asking. That's what I'm saying. You're saying that this video we observed was actually an arrest, not a detainment.
That's a video. It did.
You what?
That's a video. It's not what.
Okay, so it's the video.
It's a section of what happened. Why not let me explain everything from
We
start
will,
to
sir, but
finish?
right now I'm running the depositions and it's now you're under my, remember? I had to answer your question. So let's just try to keep this civil and you stick to answering the questions, because now you've stated that at this moment in this video, I was under arrest for criminal trespassing. That means that when you began the encounter, the non-consensual encounter with me, you already had the probable cause to arrest me for criminal trespassing. Is that correct?
I'm unsure of what you're asking.
I'm asking, do you believe at the moment pictured in that video, you had probable cause to arrest me for criminal trespassing?
I'm not going off of that video. I'm going off the totality of the circumstance and what happened prior to that.
Mr. Wahlquist.
It seems like you don't like his answers, but his answers are recorded.
What's his answer? What's his answer to, does he believe, there's a screen share going on right now, right? Look.
Sit right here, because I don't need to go in your car to. Please call super. They're all watching you. What am I standing up for?
What are you arresting him for?
Detained for what?
For what?
Detained.
For what?
Am I arrested or am I detained? You're detained at this point. Okay.
At the video, at the point in time that you can see on that video, what was the probable cause that Officer Moreno had to arrest Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing?
Are you asking me?
Yes?
Oh, criminal trespass. Refusing to leave.
No. See, Officer Moreno, you're and we all listen. It's a simple question.
I gave you
Originally,
a
you
simple
said
answer
you said this was a detainment. In the video, you say this is a detainment. In your testimony, in this moment in time, you say actually, Mr. Myers was under arrest at that time. To arrest someone, you need probable cause. What was your probable cause to arrest Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing as he was sitting on the ground right there in handcuffs?
refusing to leave prior to being in handcuffs.
He refused to leave.
After he was told that he needed to leave. After he was asked if he was going to leave, stated no multiple times.
That's your answer for the probable cause to arrest Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing at that moment?
At that time, yes,
Thank
as
you.
well as resisting.
We can move on to the next one. So after you placed Mr. Myers in the back seat of the car, did you do any investigation related to his criminal trespassing?
Yes. No, not at that time. No.
Yes or no?
No, not at that time. After he was placed in the backseat of my unit, that was it. I went to go reconfirm with Mr. Downey as I was leaving to speak with him on what happened and get a little bit more. Other than that, no. I didn't ask anyone. I didn't talk to anyone, only to use someone's cell phone due to service issues.
Yeah, what did you mean by, actually, let's pull the video up. You just made me think of it by saying, all right, so let's see. So you're saying, here we go. Here we have the video of you going over and talking to the people. As you just, following up with what you just said. Here's the video of exactly what you just said. You walked over there to these people, right?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
So you had all these people there, and the original site Mr. Myers was in was directly next to them, and you didn't ask them any questions related to the possibility of Mr. Myers' behavior.
No.
Did they volunteer any statements?
Not that I remember, no.
Who are you calling on this call?
Sergeant on duty at the time.
And who was that?
It's
I believe Sergeant Andazola. Peter
Andazola.
Andazola.
All right, let's hear this because I'm gonna have a follow-up question.
With this guy at Hopewell at the campgrounds. So the call was at Hopewell. Yeah, I just got a little nosebleed from taking him down. So he was, hold on, let me end this.
Why did you feel you needed to mute that?
It was a conversation between me and my sergeant, advising him on what happened. I can choose to mute it.
He was one of those constitutionalist guy.
What is a constitutionalist guy?
It's just a generalization of a term, just a generalization of a word.
The generalization of a term? I'm asking you what you meant when you said constitutionalist guy right here. You said he's one of those constitutionalists.
Someone who's an advocate of civil rights and
wanted him.
So a constitutionalist guy is somebody who is an advocate for civil rights?
That's what I'm going off of. That's my definition. Someone who's an advocate of civil rights, section and articles, someone who likes to look at laws. That's my definition or interpretation of a constitutionalist.
So is anything you just described illegal?
No, just giving them a generalization of what I observed Mr. Myers to be.
A constitutionalist guy?
Possibly, yes. Yes, a constitutionalist guy.
Is there a negative connotation attached to that?
No, just sorry. No, there's no negative. Just someone that perceives advocate of civil rights. That's someone who likes to go around talking about civil rights or articles and sections of the Constitution. If there was a negative connotation, it would have been said, but there wasn't.
Okay. So do you normally just go around calling people that?
No, no. I just went off of a generalization based off of the investigation and
Lean back against the seat. There you go.
Okay, so what message were you attempting to convey to your supervisor by saying he was one of those constitutionalist guys?
one of those who's goes around, advocates civil rights, repeats and cites definitions of the different articles of the Constitution.
Do you have information or reason to believe Mr. Myers goes around and does that prior to you meeting him?
No.
So what led you to believe that Mr. Myers was a constitutionalist guy?
During my interaction when I arrived on scene, he multiple times started stating different section and articles of the Constitution throughout the investigation. Stated violating civil rights multiple times, which just led me to believe some sort of a constitutionalist of some sort.
So Mr. Myers was exercising his rights.
I did not say that, no.
You said that when you arrived, Mr. Myers was referring to what? The Constitution and amendments and sections and articles?
Yes, he was referring to.
In what context was he referring to those?
Refusing to, I mean, when it comes, I don't know what context. I don't know what Mr. Myers was talking about when he started stating section and articles. I was unaware of what he was even saying.
You weren't aware of what he was saying? Okay, so let's go to this video. In this video, you walk in, here we go, we're in the hospital now. Okay. And this nurse walks up to you.
It's one of those constitutionalists.
And you tell her it's one of those constitutionalists.
Yes.
And what was that supposed to mean in that context?
Advocate of civil rights, someone who's going to exercise or recite a lot of articles and sections of the Constitution throughout their interaction.
Somebody who's going to exercise their rights.
Mm-hmm. Not in a negative way. No, not in a negative way. Just someone who's going to exercise their rights. Possibly might not even want a medical checkup.
What?
Possibly someone who's going to refuse medical attention. Other than that, that's it. There's no negative connotation regarding a constitutionalist.
So, do you consider yourself a constitutionalist?
To a certain extent, I would say I am an advocate of civil rights and the U.S. Constitution. But there's no really broad definition of a constitutionalist. It was just kind of what I perceive it to be. It can be anything.
So do you have a casual interest in civil rights?
I uphold it, but I don't go around studying it or carrying a book with me about civil rights and
Do you think civil rights are important? You think that
I do.
you think that people should be held accountable if they violate them, but you don't do anything to make sure you're not violating them?
I do, yes.
And on July 1st, what did you do to ensure you were not violating any of Mr. Myers' civil rights?
Allowed him to speak freely, allowed him to invoke or whatever religion beliefs that he believed, allowing him to move freely until he was ultimately placed in detainment, allowed him to not speak or answer questions.
Unless it was about his ID, right?
At that point, he was arrested, so
he wasn't required to identify himself because he was already arrested. Is that correct?
he was required to identify himself.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Which state law says that you're required to identify yourself after arrest?
Concealing identity.
That
But
says.
I don't know.
I'm gonna
I'm
read
not
it to
sure
you.
of what state law.
Concealing identity, the above named defendant concealed his identity with the intent to obstruct or hinder or interrupt a public officer in the lawful duty or performance of the exercise of his or rights under the laws of the United States. In which way did me not providing my name after I was arrested hinder your investigation into criminal trespassing?
It didn't allow me to properly identify at the time, Mr. Myers, who was being arrested for criminal trespassing, for him refusing to leave and stating he didn't want to leave, as well as when attempting to place him in detainment, he did resist arrest.
Okay, time out. You're not answering the question again. In which way, articulate the method or the way or the outcome of how did Mr. Myers refusing to provide his name after he was already arrested for criminal trespassing, how did that hinder your investigation into criminal trespassing?
Didn't allow me to proper identify the male subject so I can communicate it with through our dispatch so that we can see if he has any warrants, any felonies.
Was Mr. Myers already arrested when you asked him for his name?
Yes, he was.
Thank you. So Mr. Myers was not asked his name prior to being arrested for criminal trespassing?
No, he was not asked his name.
Okay. So would your statement, I'll let you give your statement, by not having Mr. Myers' name, were you still able to complete an investigation into criminal trespassing?
No, I would say no. Well, yes, I was still able to, to complete the investigation, yes. Yeah, I guess not having his name I was still able to complete an investigation.
So you were still able to complete the investigation without Mr. Myers' name?
To a certain point, yes.
Okay. To the point he was arrested?
Yes.
So Mr. Myers was already arrested. Okay. Did Doug Downey inform you that Mr. Myers moved to a different campsite that was not reserved?
He did. He did inform me.
Did Doug Downey inform you that Mr. Myers was wearing a public landowner shirt?
Yes, he did.
Is that legal?
No, just describing the male figure.
No, I mean,
describing
is
Mr.
wearing a
Myers.
public, excuse me, I apologize. That question was vague. Is wearing a public landowner shirt legal?
You can wear anything you want.
To an extent, but yes. Did Doug Downey inform you that Mr. Myers was exercising his constitutional rights?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Here, we'll pull the video up.
Before we pull up the video, I apologize. Can I use the restroom one more time? I drank lots of water, just got done doing something, so I do need to use the restroom. I will be right back. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, good to go.
We're good.
All right, back to so we were talking about the public landowner shirt. You didn't. It's not illegal. So when I asked you if Doug Downey informed you that Mr. Myers was exercising his constitutional rights when he refused to go, you said you can't recall. And so
No,
now
I
we're
can't
gonna.
recall.
All right, we're gonna play the We're gonna play that conversation with Mr. Downey now.
How you doing, my friend?
Good, and you?
Doing all right. Got a camper in here that I don't want in here. He came in and went into a site that was already occupied, and I had to ask him to move out of it.
Uh-huh.
And I went back to see what was going on and got out of my truck and started around, and his dog come running at me, and I pulled my mace, and he came out and jumped in my face and told me to get the fuck off his property. He's got a shirt with public landowner.
Yeah.
He's a little psycho. And he finally moved to a different site, but I asked him
So he did say I moved to another site.
to just leave because his aggression, I
Okay.
can't deal with that.
Do you have your ID?
We don't need to hear his phone number.
Oh, sorry.
What's the phone that works up here?
So,
Told me I'm going to learn about the First Amendment and all these amendments, and I just don't need that in here.
okay. Did he pay for the night?
No, he hasn't paid nothing. And I asked him, I said, you need to leave because with your aggression, it's not going to work out here.
Okay.
And his girlfriend started crying. And, well, I can stay because I wasn't part of that. I said, "Man, that's between you and."
Yeah.
In the Officer Moreno, in the United States of America, can you be guilty by association?
I guess it just depends. There's some the RICO Act that can
No,
probably be targeted towards gangs and racketeering charges and gang affiliate groups or organizations. I guess if you want to.
The RICO Act is a federal offense, sir.
Yeah.
So you already testified you don't enforce those.
Well, it depends, but no, you can't. I don't think you can be guilty by association.
Under New Mexico state law, let's make it simple for you. Under New Mexico state law, can you be guilty by association?
Without conducting an investigation, no.
Mr. Moreno. So that's your answer?
Yes, that'd be.
All right. We'll let you go with that one then. So, Mr. Doug Downey indicated that he wanted Miss Hendricks to leave also, right?
He said no. He just, or who's Miss Hendricks? Mr. Myers' wife?
Yes.
No. He said that it's a discussion that they both will need to have. That he just wants Mr. Myers gone.
Oh, really? Okay, let's go back then for a second here. Let's rewind real quick here. Pay close attention.
You need to leave because with your aggression, it's not going to work out here.
Okay.
And his girlfriend started crying. Well, I can stay because I wasn't part of that. I said, "Man, that's between you and."
Yeah.
But he needs to leave.
What was he wearing?
He's wearing a T-shirt that says.
So in that, did you believe that Mr. Downey was implying that Catherine Hendricks had to leave also?
No, he was not implying that.
Did you make Catherine Hendricks leave?
I'm unsure. I think she said no. I don't think I did. I don't recall. I don't think I did.
You don't recall telling Catherine Hendricks she has to leave because the host doesn't want her there?
I don't recall.
All right, let's pull the video up.
You want my other officer to help you?
Well, there's a bike rack that I don't know how to put on.
That's what I'm saying. You're putting us in a fucked up situation. You can put the cuffs in front if you want. All right.
I just want to. I just need help.
Can we help? Can you help? From a
Because of a dog.
I've been look at my face, dude. I had a dog ledge under my face. But my
This is
thing
the wrong
was-
video, sorry. Well, we can keep it moving though while we're doing this. I'll get this pulled up. I'm going to come back to that about Miss Hendricks. Okay. So the reason we went to that video was because I asked you if Mr. Downey informed you that Mr. Myers was exercising his constitutionally protected rights. You said you couldn't remember, right?
Yes.
And now after watching that video, would you like to give a different answer?
After watching it, yeah, I'll give another statement to it.
Okay. Did Doug Downey inform you that Mr. Myers was exercising his constitutional rights?
No, he did not inform of that.
Did you just watch the same video?
I did. He said he stated that Mr. Myers informed that he's gonna learn about the Constitution and the First Amendment. But other than that, no, there's nothing.
Is that what he said in the video we just watched, or are you
Yes.
anticipating
No,
a
that's what he
future
said.
question?
No, that's what he said in that video. He didn't say anything about Mr. Myers is exercising his rights. He said, Mr. Myers informed me I'm going to learn about the First Amendment and all those rights.
So that didn't make you pause and wonder why Mr. Myers would be talking about his constitutionally protected rights? Because we're going to watch that again now. We're going to watch that again because we seem to be, you know, maybe the video didn't play on your screen. Maybe. Okay. He says right here.
Oh, sorry.
I don't have it memorized because it's not my regular phone. But told me I'm going to learn about the First Amendment and all these amendments, and I just don't need that in here.
Okay. Did he pay for the night?
No, he hasn't paid nothing. And I asked him, I said, you know, you need to leave because with your aggression, it's not going to work out here.
Okay.
And his girlfriend started crying. Well, I can stay because I wasn't part of that. I said, that's between you and
Yeah.
him, but he needs to leave.
What is he wearing?
He's wearing a T-shirt that says public landowner
Uh-huh.
and shorts.
Okay.
He's in site 18.
So let me just reiterate.
Okay, so right there, he said, similar to what you stated, that Mr. Downey was going to learn about his first. You're right. You didn't witness that conversation, so you don't realize that I told him I'm exercising him. Okay, but that's not part of our interview. Okay, so all you can do is give the statement the best you did, and I'll move on from it. You will agree that you said you weren't sure. We watched it, and what we saw in the video was more related to what you stated happened. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go, you said that he said you'll learn about it or whatever. Okay. So that's true. Did Doug Downey inform you that Mr. Myers had committed any violations of New Mexico state law?
he didn't inform me anything regarding that. He just gave me his statement.
Did his statement contain any allegations that Mr. Myers violated New Mexico state law?
Yes.
Which laws?
Criminal trespass.
Did Doug Downey inform you that Mr. Myers had committed any violations of federal law?
Nothing related federally.
Nothing related federally? Is trespassing on federal land in the state of New Mexico prosecuted by the state of New Mexico or the federal government?
By the state of New Mexico.
And what is that based on? Do
Proprietary jurisdiction.
you know what that means?
Where we can enact state laws on federal land.
You can't enact them. You can enforce them.
Enforce them.
Proprietary jurisdiction means that the federal government.
Are you making a statement or are you asking a question?
I'm asking a question because he seems confused.
Enlighten me. Enlighten me then.
I'm asking you if trespassing on federal land is prosecuted by the state of New Mexico.
It's being prosecuted now, yes.
No, I mean, is it? Is that part of the criminal code?
I'm unsure. I'm unsure about the criminal code.
You're unsure of the criminal code that you arrested Mr. Myers for?
No, I'm positive and I'm aware and sure of what I arrested Mr. Myers for.
Was criminal trespassing
Yes.
on federal land, right?
On federal land, yeah.
Do you have something you can point to or direct me to that shows that the state of New Mexico retains jurisdiction for criminal trespassing on federal land?
I don't have anything to present to you on that.
Did you verify that prior to arresting Mr. Myers?
No.
What led you to believe that you had the authority to arrest Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing on federal land?
Based off of the statement, off of what the camp host provided me, and then the events of Mr. Myers not wanting to leave the campsite, verbally stating he wasn't going to leave.
Okay, but that's not the legal authority. I'm asking you what legal authority. What statute, what code, what section, amendment?
That allows me to arrest you.
For criminal trespassing on federal land.
I'm unsure. I'm unsure what state statute or federal state statute allows me to arrest you on federal land.
In case you're confused, I mean, like, can you give me something like 30-14-1C is what I'm charged with, but that doesn't cover federal land. That covers state of New Mexico land. So I'm asking you, which New Mexico law covers trespassing on federal land?
None that I'm aware of, or not any of them that come to mind.
Did you arrest Mr. Myers for trespassing on federal land?
I arrested Mr. Myers for criminal trespass. Nothing on that where it says federal land, though. I did arrest him for criminal trespass.
Was Mr. Myers, which property was Mr. Myers criminally trespassing on when you arrested him?
The campsite.
Can you name the campsite?
Hopewell Lake. It's going to be
who
Hopewell
owns-
Campgrounds.
Who owns, operates, and controls Hopewell Lake Campground?
U.S. Forestry Services.
Is that a division of the federal government?
I'm unsure of what division they are or who they are. I haven't had too many interactions with them.
What is your definition of proprietary jurisdiction?
Well, when you exactly in this case.
No, I'm
was
asking you what
barely
your definition of proprietary jurisdiction is.
enforcing state laws on federal land.
Enforcing state laws on federal land, that's what proprietary jurisdiction means?
That's not what it means, but that's my interpretation, like you asked for.
Did Mr. Myers violate state law?
Yes,
Which state law?
criminal trespass.
And how did he violate it?
Refusing his permission to be there was revoked by the camp host. Asked him multiple times if he was going to leave. He stated no. At that point, he was criminal trespassing.
Does a camp host have the authority to remove somebody for trespassing?
From my understanding, yes.
And your understanding is based on what?
Off of Mr. Downey's statement and what he advised me.
Okay, irrespective of Mr. Downey's statement, we'll take that off. Other than Mr. Downey's statement, do you have any information, or did you investigate, or were you told that you had the authority, that Doug Downey had the authority to have Mr. Myers removed? Other than Doug Downey, do you have anybody that said that?
No.
Prior to arriving at Hopewell Lake, did you contact anybody from the United States Forest Service?
No.
Did you contact anyone from the United States Forest Service after you spoke to Doug Downey?
No.
Did Doug Downey allege that Mr. Myers destroyed any property at the campsite?
No.
Did Doug Downey allege that Mr. Myers had any weapons or illegal drugs?
No.
Did Doug Downey allege that Mr. Myers threatened anyone?
No, except for him.
So would the answer be yes? I see what you're saying. It could be confusing. Let me clarify. Well, I'll ask you two separate ones. Did Doug Downey allege that Mr. Myers threatened him?
Yes.
Did Doug Downey allege that Mr. Myers threatened anybody else other than Doug Downey?
No.
Did you contact anyone from the United States Forest Service after detaining Mr. Myers?
No.
Did you contact anyone from the United States Forest Service after arresting Mr. Myers?
No.
Have you spoken to anyone at the Forest Service between the time you arrested Mr. Myers and this interview?
On duty or off duty?
Bro, you know you're on camera. I mean, that's. Are you admitting that you took? Are you admitting that conversations took place off the record about this?
Not off the record about it, but there's talk, small talk. It's freedom. You can talk about investigations or events that happened during the arrest.
Is that good for the investigation to talk about it?
If they're not involved, I mean. But.
Okay, so let me rephrase this question because you're trying to. My goal is not to play semantics with you. Have you spoken anyone at the Forest Service about your arrest of Mr. Myers between the time you arrested Mr. Myers and this interview?
No.
You have not contacted anyone and nobody has contacted you?
No.
But you talked about it at the water cooler?
At the water cooler.
That's
what water
you
cooler?
Said off the record. When was the off the record conversation?
It was just a brief gym casual conversation. Other than that, nothing else.
Was it with what was the name of the officer you were speaking to?
I'm unsure of his name.
You're not sure of his name?
No.
How did he have information about this?
I don't know. Stated that it was just sent to him. Other than that, I don't know how he had information, or just stated that it was on YouTube.
Did you speak to Anthony Yarmarillo?
Do you know how he looks?
I'm not going to describe somebody by how they look.
I don't know. I don't know who. I didn't even speak with them regarding it. Just told them what situation. Other than that, that's it. But
well, you just said that they had it sent
we
to
talked.
him.
We didn't talk about it. I just told them what I had. Other than that, just continued on with the workout.
Wow, that was really confusing. We'll just move on from that because I don't think you wanted. It wasn't clear what you're trying to say. Does the state of New Mexico? Do you have any documentation that shows ownership by the state of New Mexico of Hopewell Lake Campground?
I don't have any documentation.
Have you made any attempt to verify that since you've arrested Mr. Myers?
Yes.
You have attempted to verify what?
Just the jurisdiction issue, but other than that, no, that's it.
And
I haven't. The state of Mexico has.
Has what?
Has attempted or is verifying the arrest that was made on Hopewell Lake.
The state of New Mexico? Is that represented by somebody other than you?
No, it's represented by me.
So who is this person that is attempting to figure that out?
Oh, it's me. Apologize. It's Officer Moreno.
Officer Moreno is the individual who's attempting to determine if he had the jurisdiction to arrest Mr. Myers for criminal trespassing on federal land?
Not the jurisdiction, but just more of nothing related to the arrest, but I guess just kind of the responsibilities on attending to a Hopewell call for future calls.
And what resources or individuals or resources, what method, like, did you look at books? Did you call people? What'd you do?
Just really speak with certain individuals.
Such as?
I spoke to my LT and sergeant, and
which sergeant?
That's it. Cruzita Romero.
And Lieutenant
Dominic Casados.
And during your conversation with Ms. Romero and Mr. Casados, what was the conclusion you were left with?
That I can enact or enforce state laws on Hopewell grounds.
You can, so they told you that you're allowed to enforce state law on Hopewell Lake or other federal land?
Not other federal land, but on Hopewell Lake related to the call, yes.
The question was related to...
I answered your question. I said that it was related to a Hopewell. Other than that, there is no other broad spectrum of federal land or any federal land, just Hopewell Lake, that I was able to enforce laws or state laws at Hopewell Lake. That is going to be my response to your question.
Are you allowed to enforce state law on federal land other than Hopewell Lake?
I'm unsure. It just depends on the area and the agreement between the U.S. Forestry Service there and the state police there in that area.
And what is the agreement at Hopewell Lake Campground between the Forest Service and the state police?
That I am able to go onto Hopewell Lake for a call of service and enforce state laws.
What about federal laws?
I don't know about any federal laws.
You don't know if you, okay, so is trespassing at Hopewell Lake Campground, does that fall under federal jurisdiction or state of New Mexico?
It's going to be the state of New Mexico.
The state of New Mexico enforces trespassing?
We do enforce trespassing, yes.
When was Mr. Myers given notice of trespassing for Hopewell Lake Campground prior to July 1st?
Just July 1st.
Is the requirement for criminal trespassing to have been previously denied, had permission denied or revoked?
Yes. Yes, that is.
How does someone have the permission to enter public land? How does someone have their right to enter public land taken away?
Through verbal. You're not welcome here. You need to leave, causing a disturbance. Or through a trespassing order that we issue out.
Is that on public land? We're referring to public land.
Yeah, it's public.
So on public land,
I'm unsure of your question. I mean, seems like the questions are all related to one another, and they're basically the same question, is what I'm getting at these questions.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay, so where we were is just spend as much energy focused on the question, okay, please. And so criminal trespass, you're saying that somebody, an individual, can have their right to enter public land taken away verbally.
I'm unsure.
You're unsure? Okay, so would you answer to the more generalized question of what is required for somebody to lose access to Hopewell Lake Campground?
When the camp host asks them to leave, when there's some sort of conflict that can further escalate into a physical altercation, just like this instance between Mr. Myers and Mr. Downey, stated that he wanted Mr. Myers off the campgrounds, stated that he informed Mr. Myers he's not welcome there anymore. At that point, he's trespassing.
So it's your belief that Doug Downey, the guy who cleans the toilets at Hopewell Lake Campground, can take away somebody's right to enter Hopewell Lake Campground?
Off of what he stated, yes.
So you're saying, so let's just be clear here. Your statement is a continuation of the statement by Mr. Downey.
Excuse me?
I asked you to give your statement, and you're referring to Mr. Downey's statement.
I'm going off of the investigation.
Okay, my question is what's required for an individual to lose access to Hopewell Lake Campground?
I already provided you that question. I already provided you an answer to that question.
And it was verbally, right?
Yes.
Does Doug Downey verbally telling somebody they have to leave meet the due process requirement of the 14th Amendment?
I'm unsure.
Are you aware that accessing public land is a First Amendment protected liberty interest?
I'm unsure.
Are you aware that in order to have your permission to enter Hopewell Lake Campground, you have to go in front of a federal judge?
I'm unsure.
Did you verify any of this prior to arresting Mr. Myers?
No.
Did you talk to your supervisor, Ms. Romero or Ms. Cruzados, about can you arrest somebody at Hopewell Lake prior to arresting Mr. Myers?
No.
Do you believe you were acting lawfully in your duties when you detained Mr. Myers?
Yes.
And what was that based on?
I already provided you that at an earlier questioning.
Okay. Did Mr. Myers knowingly enter Hopewell Lake Camp, having previously had his permission to enter revoked or denied through due process in a federal court of law?
Not in a federal court of law.
Did you make sure of that?
No, I did not.
Do you believe Mr. Myers was attempting to flee from you?
Yes, I believed he was attempting to resist some sort of
Uh,
fleeing.
That's all right. Like you can only, I can only. Do you believe Mr. Myers was attempting to flee from you?
Yes.
What did you see to? What led you to believe that Mr. Myers was attempting to flee from you?
His tensing up, him continuously attempting to back up, and just not complying or following commands that was given to him.
Let me ask that again. In a clear way. Do you believe Mr. Myers was attempting to flee from you prior to you putting your hands on him?
Yes.
And what did you observe that led you to believe prior to you putting your hands on Mr. Myers that he was a threat to flee from you?
Just the continuous movement he was making, kept walking backwards, kept walking away from me. I had to continue to walk towards him to continue to ask him to leave. Kept just creating distance and moving away from me.
And this led you to believe that Mr. Myers was attempting to flee from you?
In some sort of way, yes.
Do you believe that Mr. Myers was attempting to evade you?
No.
You do not. I'm going to read count 2 to you. Resisting, evading, or obstructing an officer. The above named defendant intentionally fled, attempted to evade, or evaded Angel Moreno, an officer with the New Mexico State Police, when the defendant knew that the officer was attempting to apprehend or arrest him. So it appears, okay, so of count 2, which of those elements was Mr. Myers, did Mr. Myers intentionally flee, attempt to evade, or evade you?
Can you repeat the full state statute?
Count 2 was resisting, evading, or obstructing an officer. It says, the above named defendant intentionally fled, attempted to evade, or evaded Angel Moreno, an officer with the New Mexico State Police, when the defendant knew that the officer was attempting to apprehend or arrest him.
Yeah.
Did Mr. Myers intentionally fled?
Not fled, no.
Did Mr. Myers attempt to evade?
Yes, I would say evade.
Did Mr. Myers evade?
He didn't successfully evade, no.
Did Mr. Myers know that Officer Moreno was attempting to apprehend or arrest him?
Yes.
While he was evading him?
Yes.
Let's pull up the video.
Are you?
You just walked away.
Officer Moreno, name and badge number. 434. Step back. So.
Hold on. Put on share. Okay, so your statement is that he was attempting to evade a lawful arrest. Okay. We're going to play the video of you from the time you get out of your car. Tell me when Mr. Myers knew you were attempting to arrest or detain him.
Officer Moreno, name and badge number. 434. Step back. So, step back. Ain't no so. Name it. Call supervisor. Call supervisor.
I don't need to call a
Exercise my
supervisor.
Fifth Amendment right.
Okay.
Step back. Call a
So,
supervisor. Step back.
The land manager wants
Call
you out
a
of
fucking
his.
supervisor. Turn your body cam on. Turn your body cam
So
on.
the supervisor
I don't give a fuck
of
what the
this
supervisor-
area wants you off
Get a
the land.
warrant from a judge.
I'm not leaving. Call your fucking supervisor, motherfucker. You just fucked with the right guy.
Okay.
Pull your fucking gun out on us again and see what happens.
I didn't pull it out on you.
You pulled the fucking gun out, you little pussy.
Okay, I
You're
pulled
a
it out
bitch.
on your dog.
Get the fuck out of here.
So, reason I'm coming here is because the manager wants you out of this property.
I don't give a fuck what he wants. This is my property.
Okay.
You see what this says?
Yeah.
I own this and you don't. Get the fuck out
So
of here.
he wants you off.
I'm not leaving.
You're not leaving?
No.
Okay.
So, are you familiar with Section 1982 of the U.S. Constitution, sir?
No. So
Are
the
you an attorney?
manager wants
an
you
attorney?
off this land.
He's not the land manager. He's the host. Call
Yeah.
a fucking
Yeah, he's
deal
the
right
manager.
now. I'm done talking to you.
Okay.
You approach the situation. Stop walking towards me.
Okay.
Where's the other cop? Call back up. Call
I don't-
back up.
I don't need.
We're being harassed by the police.
So you're making this worse than it needs
No,
to be.
you're making it worse when you pull that fucking gun out, you
Okay.
little scared shit, little prick.
I'm not gonna get
Look
bit
at
by
that
one of
fucking
your
pussy-ass
dogs.
muscles. Then
Okay.
you shouldn't walk up on us if I stop.
So
Am I being detained?
yeah,
What's the probable cause?
At that point,
you are trespassing. The owner told you he wants you off the lot.
Trespassing?
Yes, sir.
it's gonna be at that point.
Call
There's
your
no
supervisor,
supervisor out.
sir. So right there at that point, prior to that, I had, Mr. Myers was not committing count 2.
Are you asking
prior
a
to that
question?
point, no.
Yeah, he said, because I don't know if you heard it over the noise. He said at that point, so I was just kind of timing it. So this is when, from this point forward, you're saying?
Is when he started committing count 2.
Right, that's what I'm asking you. Like when, what is
At
you know,
this
I'm
point in the
asking you
video,
to
when
clarify
you said, "Am I
when?
being detained?" and I stated yes, at
Okay.
that point, count 2 was being committed.
Okay, do you believe that you were lawfully detaining Mr. Myers at that time?
Yes,
Does count 2 require a lawful detainment in order to be charged with evading, fleeing, or attempting to evade?
yes. According to what you just said, yes.
So your statement is it requires a valid arrest, a valid detainment. And your testimony is that valid detainment began at the time in the video that we stopped it when you said, and I said, am I being detained, right?
Yes.
Is your testimony that I was not detained at any point prior to that?
No, you were detained. You weren't free to leave at all. But
When
at that point,
when
that's
was
when you
Mr.
were,
Myers?
you stated that when were you aware of your detainment? And I'm telling you that's when you were aware of you're being detained. But you were detained
we're
from
getting-
the moment I stepped
yeah,
out that
yep.
vehicle.
Thank you for clarifying that. Now I have a follow-up question. You just testified that, to the best of your knowledge and testimony, it was at this moment in time that Mr. Myers knew you were attempting to detain or arrest him.
Yes.
And my question is, was Mr. Myers detained prior to this moment?
Yes.
For what reason?
Criminal trespass.
Okay, we're going to back up. Now, this time I want you to tell me when Mr. Myers when this became a non-consensual detainment of Mr. Myers. Oops. Because we just confirmed that's when I was made aware that it was a non-consensual detainment. Now I'm asking you when you were aware it was a non-consensual detainment.
Elaborate non-consensual detainment.
Good evening.
That means I wasn't free to leave. That means I couldn't walk away like I did. I walked away and I'm charged with walking away. So we're clarifying all this.
Okay, go ahead.
At what point in this video that I'm about to press play on was I no longer free to leave? When did my free will end and I become detained under Terry v. Ohio?
Officer Moreno. Get that fucking dog away from me.
Whoa, man.
You walked
Who the
over
fuck
here.
are you?
You just walked over
Officer Moreno, name and badge number.
434.
Step back.
So
Step back. Ain't no so. Name it. Call supervisor. Call supervisor.
I don't need to call a
Exercise my
supervisor.
Fifth Amendment right.
Okay.
Step back. Call a
So-
supervisor. Step back. We don't even need the volume. Just tell me when it is.
It's gonna be around this point when stated
So right there, as I walked away, I was stopped. I was detained under the standard of Terry versus Ohio. You believe at that moment that was a reasonable, articulable suspicion to detain me?
Yes, you were detained at that
Did
point
you
when you
inform
stated
me
that
that I
you
was
weren't leaving.
detained? Did you inform me that? Did you inform Mr. Myers that he was detained at that moment?
No,
How would Mr. Myers know he was detained at that moment?
I don't know. I don't know how he would know.
Do you have a lawful duty to inform somebody when they're being detained for a non-consensual detainment under Terry versus Ohio?
You can tell someone when they're being detained, yeah.
Are you required to tell somebody when they're no longer free to go and their free will is ended?
Yes.
Did you tell Mr. Myers that he was detained and he was not free to leave?
No, not at that point.
But your statement is that Mr. Myers was detained at that point. It was just without him knowing it.
Yes.
Is that how the law works?
No. No.
Does Terry versus Ohio require reasonable articulable suspicion to detain somebody?
Yes.
Did you verbally instruct Mr. Myers that he was no longer free to go and he was being detained for and articulate the reason?
No.
So would you testify that Mr. Myers knew at that moment he was detained?
Not verbally. I would say no.
Did he know telepathically?
Possibly.
So Mr. Myers' only remedy for knowing he was detained was to read your mind?
I don't know. I don't know Mr. Myers' superpowers.
So the testimony, we'll keep it moving forward. So you, at this point, you believe Mr. Myers was detained. That's why you followed him around. And then when Mr. Myers asked if he was detained, that's the first time you referenced Mr. Myers being detained verbally, right?
Correct. Yes.
So is it fair to say that's when the detainment began?
Yes.
So is it fair to say
verbally.
that prior to, go ahead.
Oh, well, verbally, yeah. Yeah, he was detained right there.
Right there, as in when Mr. Myers asked you if he was detained?
Yes, that's when I guess he was verbally made aware of his detainment.
But your testimony is that he was not, or that he was detained prior to that, he just wasn't aware of it.
Correct.
So did Mr. Myers have a lawful duty to restrict his movements if he didn't know he was being detained?
I'm unsure.
Okay, let's move up to when you did say he's being detained. Then, and you said yeah, and I said, am I being detained? You said yes for trespassing.
Reason I'm coming here is to. What's the probable cause? You were trespassing. No owner told you he wants you off the lot. Trespassing? Yes, sir. Call supervisor.
In that moment, I asked you what the probable cause was for detaining me, even though you only need reasonable suspicion. And your answer was that the owner doesn't want me there. Is that what you would testify today?
Based off of your statement prior to that point, you stated that you weren't leaving. You showed you were walking away, non-compliant with commands and being told to leave.
Mr. Moreno, that's not what I asked you. I asked you, Mr. Moreno, I asked you specifically.
I answered what you asked me.
No, you did not, sir. I asked you. What did I ask you then?
Repeat your question then.
Exactly. I asked you at this moment, when you said I was detained, right here. Look, we'll play it again.
You were trespassing. No owner told you he wants you off the lot. Trespassing? Yes, sir.
Okay. I said, what's the probable cause? You said trespassing. The owner wants you off the lot. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Does Douglas Downey own Hopewell Lake Campground?
He works for it and enforces camp host or campground rules.
And
I'm gonna give it 5 more minutes because you keep asking a lot of the same questions again. So 5 more minutes, and then we're gonna be done with Officer Moreno. And at 1 o'clock, we'll get back on with Mr. Downing.
thank you. No worries. I was getting to the end. So my question was does Doug Downey own it? You stated that he has the property or he's the host or something. Did you verify the exact level of authority Doug Downey has?
Yeah, I asked him.
But no, you didn't ask anybody other than him, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's just get to a couple about you pulling your gun out. All right, so you arrived at the campsite. When you arrived at the campsite, did you see a beware a dog sign?
Not when I arrived.
Have you ever been bitten while on duty?
I have, yes.
Do you have post-traumatic stress disorder from that?
No.
Here we go. Is the screen sharing? Yes. All right. So did you pull your gun out before or after the dog barked at you?
After.
You pulled the gun out after the dog barked at you. Okay.
After.
Let's watch the video. You ready? Let me pause right there for a second. Prior to arriving at Mr. Myers' campsite, were you aware that he had dogs?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Officer Moreno.
Your gun is out.
Yes.
Can we agree your gun is out?
Yes, my firearm is out.
Have you heard a dog bark yet?
Yes. In my perception, yes. I saw the stimulus of the dog almost jumping out the front
Mr.
window.
Moreno, did you hear a dog bark prior to pulling your firearm?
He answered
From
the
what
question. I think we got 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. He's answered the question.
I believe I'm legally allowed 7 hours.
I'm going to cut this off in 3 minutes, and then you can file a motion with the court.
That's cool. So in your perception, you heard a dog bark, but in the video, you don't hear a dog bark prior. Is that correct?
I don't hear any of the sound in the video right now.
You cannot hear the sound? You pulled the gun out, and then the dog barked. Was there any reason you couldn't take a different path to the car?
That was just the path I chose to walk. That's how I chose to approach it.
You know what New Mexico House Bill 4 is?
I do not.
Do you know what qualified immunity is?
No, I do. I'm unsure of it.
Do you know what the New Mexico Tort Claim Act is?
No.
Do you know what false imprisonment is?
Yes.
Do you know what false arrest is?
Yes.
Do you know what assault is?
Yes.
Do you know what battery is?
Yes.
Do you know what malicious abuse of process is?
No.
Do you know what intentional infliction of emotional stress is?
No.
Why do you believe you were justified in using force to detain Mr. Myers?
Based off the totality of the circumstance, the statement I received from Mr. Downey, statement I received from Mr. Meyer after being told that he was not welcome there and that if he was going to leave, he stated no. At that point, made the decision to place Mr. Myers in double locked hands restraints mechanism. Upon placing my hand on his wrist, Mr. Myers did tense up, bring his arm inside, refusing to place his hands behind his back when asked to place his hands behind his back. At that point, he was resisting, didn't want to go comply with commands.
Based on you watching this video, did you search Mr. Myers prior to putting him in the car?
No.
What was the name of the officer that responded with you?
Officer Kyle Lee.
Did you ask Mr. Myers or Mrs. Hendricks if there were dogs prior to you approaching?
No.
Did you ask Mr. Myers or Miss Hendricks to make sure their dogs were under control prior to you approaching?
No.
Did you ask Mr. Myers or Miss Hendricks to come towards you?
No.
Where was Miss Hendricks as you approached the vehicle?
On the passenger side of the vehicle.
Where was
Passenger
Mr.
side door.
Myers?
He was in the back of the rear of the vehicle, back by the tree kind of area, lounge area.
Was Miss Hendricks detained at any point in time?
No.
Was Miss Hendricks made leave the campground?
She was just told she needs to leave, or she should leave, or she should. Or yeah. I told her to leave.
So you told Miss Hendricks to leave, and what was her violation that required her being told to leave?
There is no violation. If she didn't leave, then she didn't leave, but she was just told to leave.
But you don't have a reason why you told her to leave?
Just due to the situation and everything that transpired, she was just asked to leave. She didn't have to leave. The camp host stated that she was fine. It was just you that needed, or Mr. Myers that needed to leave the campground.
Did your supervisor, Cruzita Romero, reject your use of force report?
Yes, she did.
Did she give a reason?
Just to add more explanation on the use of force.
Have you been disciplined in any way for your actions on July 1st by anybody within the New Mexico State Police?
No, not as of right now. I'll be attending a de-escalation class.
So you were required to attend a de-escalation class by your supervisors?
I will be required.
When?
I'm unsure of the dates of when a class is going to be, I guess, happening. A class that's going to happen.
Do you feel you need to work on de-escalation?
I do not. But if I can always receive better training to help me in the job, I'll gladly do it.
All right. Hey, Mr. Wahlquist. You
Yes.
still there?
Yes, I'm here. Okay, I'm going to end the recording. Mr. Myers,
Is it
Mayor, excuse
12:04
me.
at your time?
It's 12:04 our time.
So 1 o'clock your time.
Yep, 1 o'clock our time, and I sent you the new link for Mr. Downing. Okay, see you at 1.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Officer
And Mr.
Moreno.
Moreno,
You
I
can get off.
appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day, sir.
So this is completely, we're going to start a whole new join the group, passcode, all that.
Yes.
We're out here today to ensure our natural rights are respected by those who swore an oath to support, protect, and defend the rights of the people. The purpose of all interactions is to peacefully promote government accountability and transparency. Please like, share, and subscribe so this message can reach as many people as possible. I implore you to peacefully seek redress to any and all of your grievances. This is a public service.